Chapter 33. Han even reaches out to pull the woman sitting next to him into his arms. The corners of his mouth rise in a provocative smile, and he looks at the person. Oh, I was wondering who it was? So it's Mei. Before, when I invited you to the brothel, you always used all sorts of excuses. What? Now you want to have a taste of this ecstasy? The woman sitting next to him is startled at first. Then she immediately shows a flattering smile. Her soft, boneless hand picks up the wine glass in front of her and brings it to Han Ye's lips. Ye come. This servant will feed you. Han Ye's gaze falls on Mei without blinking. Even though the scent of the woman coming closer makes him nauseous, he still makes a look of enjoyment and leans over to drink the wine in the glass in one gulp. However, before his lips could touch the glass, the woman's wrist is already firmly gripped. Ouch! It hurts! The courtesan is in so much pain that her tears almost fall out. But with good professionalism, she still shows a fawning smile to Mei. How can this be so rude? Could it be that you're not satisfied with our sister's service? Mei exerts force on the woman's wrist. The courtesan screams, and the wine glass falls to the ground, falling into Mei's palm. Mei raises the glass and drinks it without hesitation. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, she sits down on the left side of Han Ye with a golden knife. Her sharp gaze sweeps over, and her cold voice carries a bit of chilliness. What are you standing there for? Still not going to serve me wine? For the past 20 years, Mei has always been dressed as a man, and she's also the leader of the Shin department. That kind of resolute and fierce pressure is deeply engraved in her bones. Therefore, even if she has a handsome appearance and looks like a good woman, no one would think that she's a woman. They only feel that this is a handsome young man that can make people's hearts thump uncontrollably. The courtesan girls look at each other in dismay. Just a moment ago, they were still a bit afraid of Mei's coldness, but right now, they can't help but be happy, their cheeks blushing. Oh my! Today, these two guests are really more handsome than the other. Serving such a handsome man was much better than serving those ugly, fat people. Moreover, looking at these two people's imposing manner and the magic weapons on their waists, one can tell that they have an extraordinary background and are extravagant. If he serve her well, he might be able to achieve meteoric success. The woman, whose wrist had been grabbed by Mei and who had screamed miserably, now had a bright smile on her face. She pulled her clothes down again. She stroked her hair with her fingers and sat beside Mei with a sweet smile. While pouring wine for Mei, she rubbed her body against Mei's elbow and said, "Dear guest, my name is Xiangyan. I admire a handsome young man like you the most. How about I serve you today?" Mei glanced at her, the corner of her mouth hooked up, revealing a faint smile. Sure. The youth's smile instantly diluted the hostility and coldness between her brows. Her red lips and white teeth made her look even more romantic and charming, causing one's heart to shake uncontrollably. Xiangyan's face turned even redder. Her eyes were like silk, and she couldn't help but press her hands on the back of Mei's hands. She timidly said, "Lang Jun is so naughty. Just now, you used so much force that it scared me. If you don't believe me, you can touch it. My little heart is still pounding right now." After saying that, she grabbed Mei's hands and put them on her body. Bang! With a loud noise, the whole table was suddenly overturned. The exquisite dishes and wine on the table spilled all over the floor. Chapter 33-34. The courtesans of Zue Xiao Lu are scared silly. Each and every one of them blankly stare at the ashen-faced youth. Han Yi steps forward in large strides, ruthlessly flinging away the fragrant cloud that stuck to Mei's body. "Get lost! Dear customer, what's wrong with you? I told you to get out. Did you hear me?" A bone-chilling killing intent abruptly spreads out, and each and every one of these courtesans are scared witless. In just a moment, they've already escaped without a trace. The only one who's as calm as before is Mei. She puts down the wine glass and slowly stands up, about to walk out. But before she could take 2 steps, her wrist is gripped, and she's firmly pulled back. "Where do you think you're going?" the 5 fingers that are gripping her wrist tighter and tighter, almost making a crackling sound from the bones. But to Mei, it's as if she doesn't feel this pain at all. She calmly looks at the man in front of her, indifferently saying, "Didn't you tell me to get lost?" Ye's expression stagnates. The 5 fingers that are gripping her wrist also slightly loosen. But in just a split second, his complexion sinks, his expression becoming even more distorted. "Have you been wanting to leave me for a long time? In your heart, it's always been me who disliked me, isn't it? From the very beginning, when we entered the polar domain, you've been ignoring me. I've been shamelessly following behind you, wishfully treating you as a friend." Later on, when he found out that Mei is a woman, his heart sank without any resistance. From then on, there's only the shadow of this cold youngster in his mind and eyes. In the middle of the night, he dreams of imprisoning her in his arms forever, making her unable to escape. But Hanyi is so afraid. He's afraid that Mei's smile and kindness towards him is just gratitude for his life-saving grace, just a superficial courtesy. Hanyi reveals a distressed smile, slowly loosening his grip on Mei's wrist. "I should have known that you wouldn't say it on the surface, but in your heart, you must be sick of me. Now that you've met the man you like," when he says the last few words, Hanyi's voice is hoarse and astringent, almost unable to continue. "You can finally justifiably leave." His astringent voice doesn't continue, disappearing under the soft touch of her lips. Hanyi stares blankly at those clear and elegant brows that are within reach. Her long eyelashes drooped down, covering her clear eyes that were as black as ink. The teenager's expression was calm, but the hand that grabbed his collar was trembling slightly. Her long and thick eyelashes trembled slightly. It was evident that she was panicking and nervous at this moment. Hanyi blankly stares at this scene, smelling the familiar scent that fills the tip of his nose. For a moment, he was unable to react to what had happened. Mei was kissing him. Mei was kissing her. Hanyi suddenly quivers from head to toe, all the hair on his body almost standing on end. He opened his mouth, not knowing what he wanted to say or do. The hand on his collar had already loosened. Then, the familiar aura and soft touch left him. Hanyi feels a sense of loss in his heart. Seeing that Mei, whose ears are slightly red, is about to leave, Hanyi almost instinctively reaches out to pull her into his arms, firmly imprisoning her. However, what should he do after he was imprisoned? Hanyi blankly licks his lips. After a long while, he finally stutters and says cautiously, "Mei, you just kissed me." The youngster in his arms unnaturally shifts his body. In the end, he lowers his brows and softly utters an "N." Chapter 33-35. Why did you kiss me? Don't you hate me?" Mei rolls her eyes at him. "Idiot." Saying that, she pushes him away and turns to leave. Hanyi suddenly sobers up, tightly clenching his hands and shouting, "You're not allowed to go." Mei casts him a sidelong glance. "Are you ordering me?" Hanyi's eyes are flustered, his face flushed, but he refuses to let go no matter what. After a long time, he squeezes out, You kissed me, so you have to take responsibility." Mei is amused by him. "I have to take responsibility for a kiss." Hanyi nods again and again. Mei slightly lowers her eyes, suddenly grabs his lapel, and gently pushes him down on the bed. She kisses him once again. A low, hoarse voice vaguely sounds, "What about now? How do I take responsibility?" Hanya's eyes are once again dyed crimson, but it's different from the previous resentment and jealousy. This time, he breathes heavily, unable to bear it any longer. He turns over and reverses their positions. "Mei, don't torture me anymore. I want to think that I'm in love again and again. If you don't like me," Mei narrows her eyes. "What about you? Loitering around the brothel every day, looking for girls to accompany you? Meeting those cold and beautiful eyes filled with murderous intent." Hanyi is instantly terrified. I didn't. I just want to annoy you. Those girls, I didn't even touch a finger." "Mei, I've only liked you. One girl, you have to believe me." Mei's mouth hooks up, but she immediately presses it down, whispering, but I'm not a woman. Even if I'm willing to restore your identity as a woman, I can't learn those womanly charms again. I can't abandon the Shin department and be your wife with peace of mind. I might not even be able to bear children for you." Ingmei says a bunch of things, but finds that the man who is looking down at her has a blank expression, as if he's stupid. Her heart aches, and she wants to push him away. But she hears Han Yi suddenly stuttering. "Little Shadow, what did you just say? You said that you're willing to restore my identity as a woman. What do you mean by that?" The pain in her heart is like being gently scratched by a feather, disappearing without a trace in a flash. Ingmei looked at the silly look of the man in front of her, and her heart was filled with unprecedented peace and sweetness. Han Yi grabs her hand, impatiently wanting to ask for a statement, but because he's too nervous, he's timid. "Ingmei, does this mean that you also like me a little?" Ingmei sighed and muttered silently, "Not just a little, but a lot." However, Han Yi doesn't hear these words. Seeing that Ingmei was about to let go of his hand after he finished speaking, he got up. Han Yi doesn't know where his courage and strength comes from, but he clasps both of her hands and heavily pushes her back. "Ingmei." Seeing that the man was so anxious that his eyes were about to turn red, the smile on Ingmei's face became more and more tender. However, she had always been cold and emotionless. Her 7 emotions and 6 desires would not show on her face. Therefore, in Han Ye's view, the youngster under him still has an indifferent expression, as if disdainful of his anxiety. However, just as Han Ye's heart sinks bit by bit, thinking that he's once again being delusional, he hears Ingmei's cool and calm voice with a slight hoarseness. "Idiot, if you still don't understand, then it's better for us to cook the uncooked rice right now. Cook the uncooked rice." Chapter 33-36. Han Ye's body suddenly stiffens. His eyes stare at the face that he yearns for day and night, completely stupefied. By the time he reacts to what Ingmei said, his whole body turns red like a shrimp, hot air spurting out of his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. "Ingmei, do you know what cooked rice means? You don't talk nonsense." "Nonsense? You have to take responsibility for a kiss. After cooked rice, you will completely belong to me. How is that nonsense?" Ingmei raises her eyebrows. "But if you don't want to, then forget it." Saying that, she pushes him away and gets up. At this moment, Han Yi, whose brain had just stopped working, finally comes back to his senses. He doesn't even think about it, and pulls her into his arms. "Cook. Must cook. Today we'll cook the rice." Outside the largest private room on the 2nd floor of Drunken Heaven restaurant, from time to time, brightly dressed prostitutes stick their heads out to look inside. It's already been one night. Those 2 gongzi still haven't come out? Bah, bad luck. I thought that we could properly serve the 2 best officials who came last night. I didn't expect that the 2 of them would actually have that kind of relationship. What's wrong with that kind of relationship? Xiang Yin puts her hands on her hips, unconvinced. These 2 gongzi are a perfect match, a match made in heaven and earth. They're much better than those stinky men who look at women with lustful eyes. Guess which one of them is on top, and which one is below? Boo-hoo-hoo, this servant really wants to go in and take a look. Just as she says that, the door to the room suddenly opens without warning. A handsome young man, dressed in black, tight-fitting embroidered clothes, comes out from inside, his face expressionless. Seeing the crowd gathered outside, his expression doesn't change, and he directly throws a crystal to Xiang Yun. Xiang Yun catches the crystal in a flurry, her heart delighted. Most of the prostitutes in Drunken Heaven restaurant are only low-level mortal cultivators. In the past, most of the guests who come here were given low-grade crystals. But this crystal in her hand, even if she doesn't probe it, she can feel the richness of its spiritual power. This is definitely a high-grade crystal. Just as this thought crossed her mind, Fragrant Cloud looked down at the crystal in her hand, and her eyes widened. She cried out, "Obsidian crystal!" She was so frightened that she almost threw away the crystal in her hand. He looked at Ingmei in panic. "Sir, you must have made a mistake. This is obsidian crystal." Just as Ingmei was about to speak, Another crystal was tossed into Xiang Yun's hand. The young man's giggling voice could be heard. That's right. I'm in a good mood today. How about I reward you with another piece of obsidian crystal? These obsidian crystals were all confiscated from the Clear Sky sect by Han Yi. Most of them stayed in Liberty City. But because he had to travel a long distance to finding Mei, he couldn't bring anything from the Xiaoxian continent to the lower realm, except for those special materials. Therefore, Han Yi hides a few pieces of obsidian crystals as travel expenses on the road. Ingmei gives him a sidelong glance and says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Is Han Yi Gongzi very extravagant? Seems like you can handle these places with ease." Han Yi wraps his arm around Ingmei's waist, laughing awkwardly. "How could I? I'm just a woman who follows her husband's tune. That's all." Ingmei's face couldn't help but break into laughter. Silly. She very rarely shows such a brilliant smile. For a moment, it's like the melting of ice and snow and the blooming of 100 flowers. Han Yi is practically dumbfounded. There's something stirring inside him, but it's replaced by endless happiness and sweetness. Chapter 33-37. Little Shadow, I'm so happy. Disregarding the onlookers, Han Yi lowers his head and presses it against Ingmei's, murmuring in a low voice, "I've never been so happy in my life." Ingmei hooks up her lips. "I'm also very happy from now on, you're mine." Han Yi nods without hesitation. "I'm yours in this life, my next life, and a life after that." The two of them leave intimately. The people of Drunken Heaven building look at the obsidian crystal in Xiang Yun's hand, then at the suddenly disappearing figure on the walkway. For a moment, they're all stunned. After a long while, someone murmurs, "I thought that cold youngster was down there, but it turns out in front of Ruan Yanen's stone house." She sees Sidu Tinji, sunbathing in front of the stone house, being served by Shu Jian and Shu Mo. The smile on Han Ye's face disappears without a trace. He firmly grabs Ingmei's hand, his face full of jealousy and possessiveness. But the words that come out are still soft and flattering. "Little Shadow, what are we doing in this damn place? Where's Junshang and Miss? They don't seem to be here. Let's go find them, okay?" Ingmei looks at him in amusement, grabbing him with a backhand. "I'm going to take you to see someone." Han Yi is unwillingly dragged away by her, muttering indignantly as he walks. "Little Shadow, what's so good about that sickly man? He can't lift his hands or carry his shoulders. How can he take care of you? Moreover, this kind of hypocrite is the best at putting on an act, but he's actually very hypocritical on the inside. Don't be fooled by them." As they were talking, the two have already arrived in front of Sidu Tinji. Han Ye's last words aren't hushed at all, so it reaches Sidu Tinji's and Shu Jian's ears as expected. Shu Jian and Shu Mo's complexion becomes very unsightly in a split second. They fiercely glare at Han Yi, angrily saying, "Who are you calling a hypocrite?" "Hee, whoever puts on an act is a hypocrite." Sidu Tinji stops Shu Jian and Shu Mo's outburst, chuckling as he looks at Han Yi. "You're saying I'm a hypocrite, isn't it?" Han Yi sneers, narrowing his eyes, suddenly releasing a strong pressure. "You've just met a person, acting as if you're concerned, but you're actually taking advantage. If you're not a hypocrite, then you are a lecher." What is the level of Han Ye's cultivation? The heavenly Tao restriction on the floating island was not as strong as it was on the cultivation continent. Situ Tinji and Shu Jian's faces turn pale. "Ha!" Ingmei slaps Han Ye's head, dispersing that oppressive pressure in a split second. Han Yi is both shocked and angry, glaring at Ingmei in grievance. "Little Shadow, you hit me for an outsider? What kind of person was he? We've only met a few times, and you're already protecting him like this?" Han Yi is 100% sure that there's no such person as Situ Tinji at Ingmei's side. And with Situ Tinji's cultivation, he was clearly unable to ascend from the floating islands to the cultivation continent. Therefore, the two of them must have just met. Ingmei, such an indifferent person, is actually so affectionate towards a stranger he just met. This makes Han Yi go mad with jealousy. Sidu Tinji looks up and down at Han Yi and Ingmei, whose expressions and movements are unconsciously affectionate. The smile at the corner of his mouth can't help but deepen. This is the Han Yi you were talking about? Ingmei blushes inexplicably and embarrassedly. Remembering what Han Yi had just said, she can't help but forcefully explain. He's usually not that stupid. It's just that there are times when he can't wrap his head around things. Don't lower yourself to his level. Chapter 33-38. Han Yi simply bursts with anger. What do you mean he won't lower himself to my level? However, Ingmei's next words make his roar come to an abrupt end, and his whole person freezes. Go. He is the man I've decided on in this life, Han Yi. Go. Pinching the messenger crane, Mayan couldn't help but reveal a smile. It turns out that Sidhu Tinji is Ingmei's older brother. Meeting Sidhu Tinji this time is really a pleasant surprise. Now it seems that the knot in Ingmei's heart has finally been untied. She and Han Yi can finally be a family. On the side, Diming Ju is also holding a messenger crane in his hand, but he casually squeezes it. It turns into powder, and the fine pieces fall down. Oh, Mayan looks strangely at the man next to her. Who sent the crane? Han Yi. Mayan is even more curious. Han Yi? What message did he send? There's a moment of silence, and after a long time, she hears a low and indifferent voice. He asked Ben Jun to approve his and Ingmei's marriage. Mayan happily says, TSK, TSK. It seems that the two of them are really developing at lightning speed. Did you approve? Diming Ju faintly looks at her and unhurriedly says, No. What? Mayan is shocked. Why not? Diming Ju grabs her soft, boneless hand and gently squeezes it. His fingertips trace the lines on her palm, and he carelessly says, Ben Jun hasn't gotten married yet. Why should they get married? Mayan, Jun Shangdarin, can you be a little more narrow-minded? Diming Ju leans down and sticks close to her ear, saying in a low voice, Mayan, if you want them to get married as soon as possible, then promise to marry Ben Jun as soon as possible, and then personally preside over them. Mayan's heart trembles. She only feels like a kitten is gently scratching her letter, making her whole body go limp and numb. This is the man that she, Jun Mayan, has fallen in love with. Sometimes overbearing, sometimes narrow-minded, sometimes tsundere, and also easily jealous. But among the countless living beings in the world, in the vast sea of people, there's only this one that she can wholeheartedly love, wholeheartedly rely on. No matter how many difficulties and obstacles there are in the road ahead, as long as she knows that this person is waiting in front, she has nothing to fear. But she wanted to get married as soon as possible. Mu Yin thought gloomily, but she hasn't found her biological father, Jun Xian, and broken off the engagement. Even if she wants to get married, there's nothing she can do. Dr. Jun, are you ready? Heng's voice came from outside. We are going to the headquarters of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. After a few days of observation and selection, the Sacred Heaven Alliance chose 5 of the most skilled physicians from the invited physicians to treat Xiang Yinzhou. The remaining doctors gave them generous rewards and respectfully sent them off. Among these 5 people were He Kaizu, the traveling immortal doctor, Wen Jian, the first divine physician of the Lan royal family, Han Song, the Bee-Soul doctor, Beitang Falu, a female doctor from the Beitang branch who specialized in the way of witch medicine, and the last one, Jun Mayan, who was unknown but was fully recommended by Zhang Hong. Is this the headquarters of the Sacred Heaven Alliance? The moment they stepped into the magnificent building, they couldn't help but exclaim. Along the way, Mayan has seen a lot of strange things. Looking at the scene before him, he could not help but be dumbfounded. Was the headquarters of the Sacred Heaven Alliance luxurious and gorgeous? Magnificent and domineering? Exquisite and graceful? No, neither. He was just too special. Chapter 33-39. As soon as the 5 of them entered the hall, the ground under their feet split and spun. Before they could react, they were sent to their respective positions. A shiny silver ball floats in front of Mu Yin, letting out a childlike voice. Distinguished guest, please take a seat. Mu Yin can't help but use her divine sense to examine the ball. she found that it's not a living thing, but a Dharma treasure. And a Dharma treasure that doesn't have a spirit. But it clearly doesn't have a spirit. How can it speak? Mu Yin absent-mindedly sits down, and the silver ball immediately speaks again. Distinguished guest, would you like to enjoy some refreshments? Today's refreshments are snow lotus crisp, hibiscus cake, and fresh fish soup. Which would you like? Or perhaps this little one would like to bring you a portion of each. It can even serve refreshments? Mu Yin subconsciously replies, hibiscus cake. Very well, please wait a moment, distinguished guest. Mu Yin is thinking about how to serve the refreshments with this little ball. A few tentacles stretch out from the silver ball and fly out. A moment later, steaming hot and fragrant refreshments are brought to the table. Esteemed guest, please enjoy. Mu Yin's eyes shine brightly. What is this little thing? Isn't it too interesting? Damn, is this an AI? Bai Xie's excited and dreamy voice suddenly comes to her ears. So the cultivation world's refining methods can also refine AI? You must be joking. The little phoenix happily says, little brother, pretty sister, this is so fun. If only we could raise one in the space. Even Xiao Bao, who has always been precocious and has no interest in toys, also shows a curious expression in the space. Only Qi Huang disdainfully rolls his eyes. What kind of trash is this? This kind of inferior goods. They didn't even have the qualifications to serve this sage. Even if they were placed in the mining area to do repetitive work, I still despise them for being too slow, too stupid. What kind of eyes do you have? Even this kind of trash can enter your eyes. Mu Yin is surprised. Qi Huang, have you seen this kind of Dharma treasure before? Where did you see it? Qi Huang stares blankly. A bit of confusion appears on his face. His hands hanging by his side unconsciously clenches. That's right. He has seen this kind of Dharma treasure before. Seems like he has. But where had he seen it before? Qi Xiaowang, why do you care if I've seen him or not? Qi Huang abruptly comes back to his senses and says with a sour face, in short, as the master of the Tianmo Qin, you're not allowed to make a fuss over nothing. Showing this kind of stupid look that hasn't seen the world. Even if you don't find it embarrassing, this Zun finds it embarrassing. Mu Yin rolls her eyes. TSK. How did she lose face? Other than Wen Jian, the other three were also shocked by the little thing in front of them. What's wrong with her making a fuss about nothing? Han Song and Beitang Feilu were even more excited as they circled around the little silver ball and shouted. She was already very calm. All right. 5 great doctors. Welcome to the Sacred Heaven Alliance. A low and deep voice suddenly came from the upper left. Mu Yin raised his head to look and saw an old man leading 5 young men dressed in the same clothes walking over. Among the 5 young men, one of them was Zhang Heng, who had recommended Mu Yin. Seeing that he had attracted their attention, the elders smiled lightly and said, I am Wu Chun, the steward of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. It is our Sacred Heaven Alliance's honor to be able to invite all the doctors here to treat our Alliance Master. Chapter 3340. To express my gratitude, regardless of the outcome of this treatment, I will give you this little toy, the silver centipede, as a gift. You only need to use your divine sense to control the core artifact embedded in the silver centipede, and you can give it some simple commands. In addition to daily use, this silver centipede can also provide you with more than 5 times of defense, and its defense can block a single attack from a peak Earth creation expert. Mu Yin did not hear what Steward Wu said after that, because her ears were already filled with the excited cries of a few little fellows. If not for the current situation, the little fellows would have immediately grabbed the silver centipede outside and played with it. Crack! A shattering sound was heard. Mu Yin turns her head to look and sees that Wen Jian has crushed the silver ball floating in front of him. He revealed an arrogant and disdainful smile. This old man came all the way to the Sacred Heaven Alliance, not for a little toy like the silver centipede. What this old man wants is your Sacred Heaven Alliance's treasure, the 9th Heaven Thunderblade. Steward Wu's expression changed, his brows darkening. Zhang Heng and the others behind him also had ugly expressions, and could not help but say, "Doctor One, are you mistaken? The condition of our Sacred Heaven Alliance, seeking a doctor, is the artifact that the Alliance Master personally refined after recovering, not the Ninth Heaven Thunderblade. Ha! In this world, besides me, who can cure Xiang Yunzhou's illness?" Wen Jian looked disdainfully at Steward Wu and the others, his face full of contempt. "Do you think that the Sacred Heaven Alliance is qualified to negotiate with me? Without me, who else can you rely on? On this group of trash?" Steward Wu and the others had ugly expressions when they heard this. Even He Kaizu and the others' faces darkened, especially the young Beitang Feilu, who immediately abandoned the Silver Centipede and said angrily, "Dr. Wen, we have always been respectful to you because we respect you as an elder, but don't go too far. Are you the only powerful doctor in this world, Wen Jian?" Wen Jian turned to look at Beitang Feilu, then at He Kaizu and Han Song, raising his brows. "Why are you all looking at me like this? Do you really think that you can beat me in medical skills?" He Kaizu's face darkened as he said coldly, "There is no difference in medical skills. It only depends on whether you can relieve the patient's pain. Dr. Wen, since you are the best doctor of Floating Island, you should know the principle of a doctor's benevolence." "That's right." Han Song's voice was especially loud. When he shouted, one could hear the echoes. "You haven't even seen Alliance Leader Xiang's illness before, and you dare to boast so shamelessly. Isn't this a bit too arrogant?" Muyan didn't say anything. Instead, she stood beside He Kaizu and the others, expressing her attitude. Her expression was calm, and she was not as angry as the others. However, her eyes were staring deeply at Wen Jian, and the corners of her lips curled into a cold smile. Was this the person who drugged Ingmei's brother with the unknown drug that would make him addicted? Ingmei's revenge. Should he help her get back some interest at the same time? Hikaizu saw that the other three doctors are on his side and felt much more confident. He turned his head to look at Steward Wu and asked in a clear voice, "Where's Alliance Leader Xiang? His illness cannot be delayed. I don't think there's any need to waste time here. Let's go take a look at Chief Xiang's condition first." Steward Wu showed gratitude and extended his hand. "This way, please. The Silver Centipede will also show you the way." Chapter 3341. Are you qualified to touch this old man's patience? Just then, Wen Jian's sneer interrupted Steward Wu's words. Immediately after, 4 rays of light flew out from Wen Jian's hands, heading straight for Mine's group. What's that? Wen Jian, what are you doing?" Mine's reaction was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, she had already silently caught the flying thing. A heart-wrenching pain came from her palm. Something was desperately trying to drill into her skin, follow her meridians, and invade her lungs. Mine's eyes turned cold, and the corners of her mouth faintly hooked up. "Goo! It's a goo!" Beitang Feilu's complexion was ashen. She quickly took out a crimson awl and pierced several acupoints on her body. She fiercely glared at Wen Jian, gnashing her teeth. "Wen Jian, we met by chance, and there is no enmity between us. How dare you poison us?" If she wasn't originally a female doctor proficient in witchcraft, the goo would have entered her body by now. Hikaizu and Han Song were obviously not so lucky, and had already fallen to the ground with a scream. Everyone's complexion was deathly pale, and their bodies were curled up and trembling violently. Painful groans came from their mouths. Beitang Feilu looked at the miserable state of the two, and her heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, the goo was ineffective against her, but she couldn't deal with Wen Jian alone. She had to save Hikaizu and Han Song first. Thinking like this, Beitang Feilu once again took out a crimson awl and walked towards Hikaizu. Wen Jian watched this scene from the side. Not only did she not panic, she even revealed a mocking smile. The next moment, Beitang Feilu, who had just taken 2 steps, suddenly screamed and fell to her knees. On her fair arm, there was a small bulge that was moving rapidly towards her heart. How could this be? How could this be? I clearly had the goo under control. Beitang Feilu completely panicked, screaming to force the goo out of her body. But the more she used spiritual power, the faster the goo moved through her meridians. Not long after, she fell to the ground like Hikaizu and Han's song, twitching and moaning in pain. Steward Wu said angrily, "Dr. Wen, what are you doing?" Wen Jian sneered, his expression arrogant and disdainful. Weren't these people clamoring to compete with this old man in medical skills? Am I not giving them a chance? Looking at Hikaizu and the other two screaming on the ground, then looking at Mu Yin, who was sitting on the side. Although she didn't make any sound, her head was lowered, and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. Wen Jian could not help but laugh out loud. "You can't even cure the poison that I released. With your medical skills, you are not even worthy of carrying my shoes." When he finished, he looked at Wu Chun and the rest. "Steward Wu, now you should know who to rely on to cure Alliance Chief Xiang's illness, right? What are you standing there for? Hurry up and lead the way." Steward Wu's face darkened when he saw Wen Jian's smug look. They dared to make a move in the territory of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. This Wen Jian was too arrogant. He was looking down on the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Moreover, the Ninth Heaven Thunder Saber was a sacred object passed down from generation to generation in the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Where did Wen Jian get the face to ask for this thing? Steward Wu was furious, but he couldn't let it out. The Alliance Chief was already in danger. Chapter 3342. On the floating island, perhaps only Steward Wu can cure him. Steward Wu coldly says, "Please cure them of the goo poison, Dr. Wen. These people are all honored guests invited by my Sacred Heaven Alliance. Don't worry, they won't die for a while." Wen Jian sneers, "After I've treated Alliance Master Xiang and obtained the Nine Heavens Thunderblade, this old man will naturally spare their lowly lives." Steward Wu takes a deep breath. "Then please follow me to see the Alliance Master, Dr. Wen." Wen Jian laughs 3 times, brushes his clothes, and is about to follow. However, at this moment, a light and sweet-sounding female voice comes from behind him. "Isn't it a medical competition? It's not over yet. Why is Dr. Wen leaving?" Wen Jian suddenly turns his head. Looking at the smiling girl under the illumination of the crystal, he reveals an incredulous expression. You weren't poisoned by my goo? Oh, so the thing that Dr. Wen just sent was a goo poison? I'm sorry, I didn't notice it." Mayan beckons with her hand, and a chubby, soft, white-furred rabbit appears in her arms, its mouth flattening as it eats something. "Because it's already been eaten by my family's summoned beast." What a joke. That's the snake goo, one of the top 10 poisons of the floating island. Even if a commander-level summoned beast eats it, it will also die. How can a mere rabbit that isn't even an elite level not die after swallowing the snake goo? Wen Jian roars, and another ray of light flies out from his hand. "Dr. Jun, be careful!" Hung shouts, and the sword in his hand is already unsheathed. However, the next moment, a scene that makes everyone dumbfounded happens. They see that the fat rabbit that is lazily lying in Mayan's arms, seemingly too lazy to even move, suddenly leaps up, catching the flying snake goo in the air, and swallows it into its small mouth. Guji. It's unknown whether it's chewing or digesting, but the sound echoes in the spacious hall. It's particularly strange. Burp. After the fat rabbit finishes eating, it burps and wags its short tail at Mu Yan. Mu Yan looked at Wen Jian with a smile. "Dr. Wen, it seems that your snake voodoo tastes good. My fat rabbit is a picky eater. It's not easy to find something to his liking. Why don't you send some more?" Wen Jian was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Damn it! How could there be such a summoned beast? Snake goo. That was an extremely poisonous snake goo. How could he be fine after swallowing it? Steward Wu and the others were also dumbfounded. "Little girl, don't be too arrogant." Wen Jian gritted her teeth. "So what if you have a summoned beast that can eat the snake goo? Can this prove your medical skills?" Mayan looks up at him like she's looking at an idiot. Did I say that the fat rabbit was proving my medical skills? The one who wants to prove his medical skills is naturally. Before she could finish, she saw Hikaizu, Han Song, and Beitang Feilu slowly crawl up from the ground one by one. Many thanks for Dr. Jun's life-saving grace. Hikaizu and Han Song deeply bow towards Mayan, their faces full of gratitude. Beitang Feilu, who is also a woman, intimately leans over to Mayan's side, and with a face full of lingering fear, she says, "I thought I was dead for sure. Dr. Jun, fortunately we have you. Otherwise, even if we could survive, we would definitely be humiliated by that unscrupulous poison doctor." Chapter 3343. Mu Yin smiled casually, then looked at the shocked Wen Jian. "Dr. Wen, why aren't you speaking? Didn't you say that you want to compete in medical skills? How does Dr. Wen want to compete?" Wen Jian's face turned green and white, staring at Mu Yin in bewilderment. This little girl of unknown origin, she was the one he looked down on the most in the beginning, a waste that hadn't even reached the profound life realm. He didn't know what the Sacred Heaven Alliance was thinking, to find such a trash to treat Xiang Yinzhou. However, the truth slapped him hard in the face. She actually cured the Yin Snake Goo? But how did she cure it? He didn't even see how the little girl did it. Cough, cough. Steward Wu walked down the stairs with a smile on his face. He respectfully bowed to Mu Yin, then said in a clear voice, "Doctors, the Alliance Master has been waiting for a long time. Please follow me in." Although Wen Jian was irritating, but his medical skills were superb. For the sake of the Alliance Master's life, Steward Wu didn't want Mu Yin to go against him at this moment. Mu Yin looked at Wen Jian with a faint smile, then turned to follow Steward Wu. "It's so cold. Steward Wu, where's Alliance Master Xiang?" On the long walkway, there were illumination stones placed every few meters on the walls on both sides. But at this time, these stones were covered in a thick layer of frost, causing the entire walkway to be dark. Everyone present was a cultivator. Apart from Mu Yin, who was at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm, the others were all above the profound life realm. But even so, everyone felt a bone-piercing chill penetrating their bodies as they walked on the long walkway. Beidang Feilu was the first one who couldn't take it anymore. Steward Wu showed an apologetic expression. "Please forgive us, doctors. Our Alliance Master's illness is a bit special. Only in such an environment can he preserve his life. But, even so, he can't hold on much longer." What kind of illness is Alliance Master Xiang suffering from? Could it be that his meridians were injured by a fire attribute skill? Steward Wu, Dr. Beitang, you'll know in a while. Even Mu Yin couldn't help showing a curious expression. However, he doesn't seem to have heard her words. He lowers his eyes, and his cold gaze sweeps over Mu Yin. The corner of his mouth hooks up into a strange smile. After an unknown period of time, the surrounding temperature became colder and colder. Yet, under such cold weather, Steward Wu warned everyone not to use any method to warm themselves. Otherwise, they would attract a terrifying disaster. Just when a few of them were almost unable to withstand the cold, the passage finally came to an end. A door covered in a thick layer of frost appeared in front of him. Steward Wu placed his trembling hand on the door and pushed with all his might. Creak! The layer of ice shattered, revealing the interior of the house. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Hikaizu looked at Steward Wu in disbelief. That's Alliance Leader Xiang. A few years ago, Hikaizu had met Xiang Yinzhou once. At that time, the Alliance Master of the Sacred Heaven Alliance was still an elegant middle-aged man. Although there were already fine wrinkles on his face and some white hair on his temples, he gave people a feeling that he was handsome and high-spirited. Yes, Xiang Yinzhou was only in his early 80s, but he was already at the peak of the sea-splitting realm. With a long lifespan and a high position, how could he not be high-spirited? But could the person lying on the ice bed in the house still be considered human? At first glance, it was clearly a charred corpse. Chapter 3344. Moreover, the corpse seemed to have been soaked in water, swelling up countless times. Even without getting close, they could smell a nauseating rancid smell. How could this be? Hikaizu murmured, "How did Alliance Master Xiang become like this?" Steward Wu stared blankly at the charred corpse in the ice room, as if recalling something. His body trembled uncontrollably. "We don't know what happened either." Wu Chan still remembered that it happened more than a month ago. Because the day to repair the Heavenly Halberd was approaching, the Holy Heaven Alliance was on full alert and extremely nervous. Xiang Yinzhou was also full of anxiety. Because the repair of the Heavenly Halberd was originally the responsibility of the Holy Heaven Alliance's ancestor, Xiang Batian. But since a few years ago, Xiang Batian had left the Holy Heaven Alliance and had yet to return. Although Xiang Yinzhou had forged the Heavenly Halberd with his grandfather, he had never been in charge of it alone. And no mistakes could be allowed in this matter. Otherwise, the entire floating island would be buried. At that time, Steward Wu and the others were burning with anxiety. But just a month ago, Xiang Yunzhou's mood suddenly became extremely good after returning from the outside. The anxiety on his face had also turned into a confident and joyful expression. Steward Wu. After that day, Alliance Master went into seclusion. We all thought that Alliance Master had found a way to break through. Who knew that 3 days later, the seclusion chamber would suddenly explode, and Alliance Master, just like that, was completely charred, lying in the rubble, never to wake up again. His gaze turned to Mu Yin and the others, revealing a bitter smile. "I won't hide it from you. Previously, it's not that our Holy Heaven Alliance's doctors didn't try to treat Alliance Master. But not only did it not heal, the skin and flesh on his hand were burnt. And this kind of burning was extremely painful, but medicine was ineffective. He could only wait for the pain to pass bit by bit. This kind of torture would last for a full 7 days." Hearing Steward Wu's description, Hikaizu and Beidang Feilu's expressions changed. Han Song, however, smiled lightly. Looking at Alliance Master Xiang's illness, it should be fire poison invading his body. If it was any other illness, I might not be as good as the other doctors. But if it's fire poison, my summoned beast can give it a try. Steward Wu was overjoyed. The Sacred Heaven Alliance disciple who recommended Han Song was even more delighted. "I've long heard that Dr. Han Summoned Beast is a rare medical support type soul beast, the 100 Snow Sparrow. The 100 Snow Sparrow will definitely be able to restrain all poisons and living things in the world as long as it's fire attributed. With Dr. Han around, our alliance leader will definitely be saved." When Han Song heard this, he raised his chin proudly and muttered something. Soon, a palm-sized snow-white spiritual sparrow appeared in front of everyone. Almost as soon as the spirit sparrow appeared, the surrounding frost seemed to have met its nemesis as it cracked and fell to the ground. Han Song, who had just been unbearably cold, now straightened his back. His expression was calm, and he no longer shivered. He reached out to touch the spirit sparrow and whispered a few words in its ear. Then he pointed at the charred corpse in the ice room. The spirit sparrow flapped its wings and was about to fly into the house. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the side and pressed down on Han Song's arm. This hand was slender and fair, with well-proportioned joints. It was beautiful, as if it was carved out of fine jade. Han Song was stunned, then heard a pleasant voice in his ear. "Please wait a moment." Chapter 33:45. "Dr. Jun, what's the matter?" Han Song looked at the girl who stopped him in surprise. Han Song was in a trance for a moment, and amazement flashed in his eyes. Mu Yin said lightly, "Let's first determine what disease Leader Xiang has. Otherwise, your summoned beast may be injured." This was a kind reminder, but in Han Song's ears, it sounded like she was looking down on him. He remembered that under the corrosion of the Een snake goo, his ugly appearance had been seen by the girl in front of him. Han Song's brows furrowed deeply, and his voice became a bit colder. "Dr. Jun, this Han is truly grateful for saving my life just now. I'm really not good at detoxifying the Een snake goo. In terms of medical skills, I may not be your opponent, but I have never failed in detoxifying fire poison." The Sacred Heavens Alliance disciple who recommended Han Song glanced at Zhang Heng and couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. "Dr. Jun, We know that your medical skills are superb, but there are specializations in this field. On this floating island, if Dr. Han claims to be number one in detoxifying fire poison, no one dares to claim to be second. Mu Yin raised her eyebrows, retracted her hand that was pressing down on Han's song, and smiled ambiguously. She had already reminded him. Since the other party didn't appreciate it and insisted on courting death, then forget it. Seeing Mu Yin obediently retreat, Han Song cheered up and used his divine sense to drive away the spirit sparrow. The spirit sparrow flapped its wings and flew towards the charred corpse in the ice room. Steward Wu and the others all held their breath. They watched the spirit sparrow land on top of the charred corpse without blinking. Its sharp beak lightly pecked the head of the charred corpse. A layer of frost instantly spread from the top of the head, gradually covering every inch of the charred corpse's skin. Everyone was overjoyed. It works. Dr. Han's snow sparrow is really the nemesis of all fire poisons. Han Song also smiled and couldn't help glancing at Mu Yin proudly. However, the next moment, a piercing pain erupted from the depths of his sea of consciousness. Han Song let out a howl that was 100 times more painful than when he was hit by the snake goo, and suddenly fell to the ground and kept rolling. Almost at the same time, a golden red flame sprang out of the charred corpse and wrapped around the spirit sparrow. The snow sparrow didn't even make a sound and disappeared without a trace. There was dead silence. Even Mu Yin couldn't help but be greatly shocked. She could sense that the fire-attributed energy wrapped around the charred corpse was extremely powerful. It was not something that Han Song's snow sparrows could contend with. But even Mu Yin did not expect it to be so powerful. Han Song's summoned beast, the snow sparrow, was not seriously injured, but directly swallowed. In other words, from now on, Han Song was no longer a soul master and could no longer be a B-soul doctor. Han Song, who slowly woke up from the pain, felt that the connection with the 100 sparrows of ice and snow had been completely broken in his sea of consciousness. His face was deathly pale. At this moment, he remembers June Mayan's obstruction, and the remorse in his heart surges like a tide. However, it was too late. It takes Beidang Feilu a long time to react. She staggers back a few steps and fearfully hides behind Mayan. She's actually more than 10 years older than Mayan. But at this moment, she was like a frightened little girl who only wanted to seek the protection of a powerful person. Hikaizu's face was also pale, and his lips were trembling. After a while, he muttered, "Steward Wu, I'm afraid we can't cure Alliance Master Xiang's illness." Chapter 3346. Beidang Feilu nodded repeatedly. How is this a treatment? He was clearly trying to bring a charred corpse back to life, and he even had to pay with his own life. Steward Wu said anxiously, "Dr. He, you're known as the Doctor Genius. How can there be an illness that you can't cure? At least go and take a look at our Alliance Master, right?" Hikaizu let out a long sigh, shook his head, and said, "I've already tried to use my divine sense to probe Alliance Leader Xiang's body, but as soon as my divine sense got close, it was swallowed by a scorching heat. If you get close to the treatment, I'm afraid that you won't end up any better than the doctors of the Sacred Heaven Alliance." "Then what about Dr. Jun?" Zhang Heng looks at Mayan hopefully. "Dr. Jun is a music doctor. He doesn't need to approach to treat." Beidang Feilu grabbed Mu Yan's hand and said angrily, "Do you think that there is no risk in being a doctor? Yu Yin's treatment relies entirely on her divine sense to touch the patient's body. Didn't you hear what Dr. He said? Divine sense will be devoured just like summoned beasts. Are you trying to kill Mayan?" Mu Yin slightly squints her eyes, looking at the charred corpse in the ice room thoughtfully. The glimmer of hope in Steward Wu and the others' eyes was extinguished bit by bit. At this moment, when Jian chuckled and slowly walked forward, "In the end, this old man still has to make a move." Steward Wu's spirit was shaken. He could no longer care about his disgust for Wen Leon. He asked excitedly, "Dr. Wen, do you have a way to cure our alliance leader?" When Jian glances arrogantly and disdainfully at everyone present, especially at Mu Yan, who had just caused him to lose face. Didn't your Sacred Heaven Alliance want to flatter this little girl and think that my medical skills are only so? What? Now that you've realized that this little girl is useless, you want to turn around and beg this old man? Steward Wu and the other 5 bowed to him. Some of them even slapped their own faces. They only hoped that when Jian would show mercy and save their Alliance Master's life. When Jian put his hands behind his back and casually spat out a few words, Ninth Heaven Thunderblade, Steward Wu's face stiffened, and his eyes were filled with struggle. However, when he saw the Alliance Master lying in the ice room like a corpse, he gritted his teeth and said, "Men, go and get the Ninth Heaven Lightning Saber." Steward Wu, that's the treasure of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. It's just an inanimate object. Could it be more important than the Alliance Master's life? Go get it. I will bear all the consequences. Soon, a small Cosmos box was carried into the cold basement. Even through the storage device, he could feel the powerful pressure and energy of the magic treasure inside. When Jian took the Cosmos box, his eyes full of greed and excitement. Got it. He really got it. The Imperial Tutor was right. This trip to the Sacred Heaven Alliance was a sure win for him. The next step was to complete the task entrusted by the Imperial Tutor. When Jian's eyes darkened as he strode towards the ice room. When Steward Wu saw him like this, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Mu Yin raises her eyebrows and follows them in. Mu Yin, what are you going to do? Beitang Falu said anxiously, that fire poison is so powerful. If you were to touch it, Mu Yin smiled and patted her shoulder. Don't worry, I just want to see how Dr. Wen is going to save Chief Xiang. When Jian looked at her disdainfully, his eyes surging with a malicious light. However, he did not say anything. Instead, he quickly walked to the ice bed. A small bell cauldron suddenly appeared in his hand. Chapter 33:47. When Jian tossed the bell cauldron into the air, a buzzing sound instantly reverberated throughout the underground ice room. The bell cauldron also grew larger, emitting a faint yellow light that enveloped the charred corpse below. Dr. Jun, you have to be careful. Seeing that when Jian's attention was on the bell cauldron, Hikaizu lowered his voice and said, When Jian is a very shrewd and vengeful person. He will not easily let off those who offend him. After leaving the Sacred Heavenly Alliance, you must be careful. Maya nodded, showing a grateful expression. Thank you for the reminder, Dr. He. When she lowered her eyes, the corners of her mouth hooked up into a cold arc. It was still unknown who would easily let off who. However, what was this bell cauldron that when Jian took out? Why did it also give her a strange feeling? That is also a demon god tool, although it is only a substandard one. Qi Huang's voice rang in her ears. Mayan was startled. Demon god tool? She remembered that the Chaotic Tower and Bixia were both demon god tools. This bell cauldron was also one. Qi Huang, do you know what kind of fire poison Alliance Master Xiang was afflicted with? Mayan frowned. I probed it with my divine sense just now. That fire attribute energy was extremely overbearing. Even my divine sense was almost bitten off by it. What kind of fire poison could be so powerful? Qi Huang hesitated for a moment, murmuring, This sage also feels that the energy fluctuation on this person is somewhat familiar, but I can't remember where I came into contact with it. As he spoke, the charred corpse that was originally lying on the sickbed slowly floated into the air, getting closer and closer to the bell cauldron, and the yellow light emitted by the bell cauldron gradually became so dazzling that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Wisps of golden red flames seeped out from the charred corpse. I know. Qi Huang's voice suddenly sounded, startling Mayan. What do you know? Qi Huang snorted. This exalted one knows what that fire is. No wonder I felt that the smelly burnt smell was somewhat familiar. It turns out to be Golden Crow. Golden Crow? Qi Huang lay on the lawn of the space, curling his lips in boredom. A flame essence that is so lazy that it can fly. Little Phoenix flapped his wings happily and said, Chio knows about the Golden Crow fire essence. It's very powerful. Only the Golden Crow fire can refine sacred ancestor level pills and true heaven bestowing holy artifacts. Mayan's eyes brightened. Isn't that a good thing? Chi Huang rolled his eyes. Don't be silly. The golden crow is stupid and lazy, but it's not something that humans can control. That alliance leader Xiang Yinzhou must have a hole in his brain to want to directly absorb the golden crow fire essence. Fortunately, the lazy golden crow was sleeping and did not release even 1% of its fire elemental energy. That was why he could still breathe. But it can only last for another 3 days. Mu Yin frowned. Did Jiyin say that he can save Chief Xiang? Idiot. Dream on. Those that are parasitized by the golden crow are the same as the flame essence's prey. Only if they're alive will they. Chi Huang's voice suddenly paused. He straightened his body and stared at the bell cauldron that was emitting a yellow light. Chi Huang, what's wrong? So that's how it is. After a long while, Chi Huang spat out in a low voice, then revealed an evil smile. That smelly old man really isn't a good person. He doesn't want to save Xiang Yinzhou, but wants to use Xiang Yinzhou as a sacrifice to subdue the golden crow fire essence with this substandard demonic artifact. TSK, TSK, TSK. This can be a way to temporarily control the flame essence. Chapter 3348. Mayan is startled, then her brows tightly wrinkle. When Jiyan really had guts, they dared to do such a thing in the territory of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. She sneers, and with a sudden flick of her wrist, the Tian Mo Chin appears in her palm. Chi Huang was stunned. What are you doing? Mu Yin plucked the strings of the zither. Of course it is to wake Xiang Yinzhou and let him refine my natal sword. Didn't you always say that my natal sword wasn't cool enough, and that it wasn't as handsome as youngest uncle? If I help Xiang Yinzhou absorb the golden crow fire, what kind of life bond sword do you think he will forge for me? Chi Huang looked at the high-spirited young girl outside the space. He wanted to say that the power of the golden crow fire essence was great. How could it be so easily tamed? Xiang Yunzhou's meridians had already been corroded by the fire poison, and there was no hope for him. But in the end, all his doubts disappeared without a trace when he saw that pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes. Lord Artifact Spirit brushed his red robe and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He said with a disdainful expression, "All right, isn't it just golden crow fire essence? If it dares to cause trouble, I will beat it until it doubts its own life." Gaguji. He began to doubt his life. The little chick, who had rolled over to Chi Huang's side, immediately raised its little wings and shouted. Mu Yin closes her eyes. When she opens them again, her fingers are already quickly plucking the strings. The melodious sound of the zither flowed in the quiet basement. Those who were originally focused on the bell cauldron could not help but forget to look over. Dr. Jun, why are you playing music now? Dr. Wen is still treating the Alliance Master. Can you be quiet? Mu Yin turns a deaf ear to everyone's questions, but her hands move faster and faster on the zither. The sound of the zither became more and more urgent, like a torrential downpour hitting the stone walls. Pa 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 pa. Gradually, the sound became incoherent, like noise. Just as Steward Wu and the others were about to lose their patience, the bell cauldron suspended in midair suddenly swayed. After that, the yellow light flickered for a while and then disappeared. When Jiyin's expression changed, "What's going on?" The spiritual sense connection between him and Zhongding was unexpectedly cut off by something. Clang! An ear-piercing voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone present to tremble. Immediately after, Zhongding flew towards Mu Yin at high speed. Finally, it floated above her head. When Jiyin's face turned deathly pale, he suddenly turned around and looked at the girl playing the zither. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "Bitch, what did you do?" His connection with Zhongding's divine sense was completely severed. That was a treasure given to him by the imperial tutor. If he lost it, if he messed up this mission, he would suffer a fate worse than death. Mu Yin slowly raises her head. Under the dim light of the basement, she can vaguely see the girl's delicate porcelain skin, bright red and tender lips, thick and long eyelashes, and under the cover of those long eyelashes, her peach blossom eyes are as clear as water and overflowing with brilliant colors. Sorry, I am very interested in this magic treasure of yours. I would like to borrow it to study it. She was right. This bell cauldron was not something that could be heard or spoken. Therefore, Mayan easily cut off the connection between him and Zhongding. When Jian's face was twisted and his eyes were filled with a crazy, killing intent, he couldn't help but let out a furious roar. He condensed all the spiritual energy in his body and fiercely slapped Mu Yan. When Jian was an expert of the opening mountain realm, how could a little girl in the mortal cultivation realm like Mu Yan block this palm? Beitang Feilu's complexion changed greatly, and he growled, "Mu Yan, be careful." Chapter 3349. Hikaizu also took out his defensive artifact to save her, but he was still a step too late. Seeing Wen Jian's murderous intent, Mayan sat motionless in the same place, the corners of her lips slightly hooked, her posture lazy. The next moment, there was a loud bang. Wen Jian's whole body flew out, heavily hitting the ice wall. The ice wall shattered, and countless gravel and ice pieces smashed onto Wen Jian's body. On the other side, a tall and handsome man appeared out of nowhere in front of Mayan. Beitang Feilu sucked in a cold breath. Heavens! There's actually such a handsome man in this world. Steward Wu turned pale with fright. You! Who are you? How did you enter the forbidden area of my Sacred Heaven Alliance? Zhang Heng was the only one present who recognized him at a glance. Wasn't this man emitting a terrible pressure Mayan's fiancé? But he clearly didn't come to the Sacred Heaven Alliance. So how could he appear here? Di Mingju, who appeared out of nowhere, was holding a jade slip in his hand, which was flickering with a faint light. Elder Chang's nervous voice came from inside. Junshan, what happened? Nothing. Wait a moment. After coldly replying, Di Mingju turned around and pulled Mayan up. He examined her from head to toe and sighed in relief. Feeling the cold environment, he couldn't help but frown. He took off his clothes and tightly wrapped the woman in his arms. His gaze swept over Wen Jian, who was struggling to get up from the ruins, and he lightly said, "Do you want Ben Jun to kill these jumping clowns for you?" Mayan smiled, her eyes curved. "No need. I can take care of it myself. Did I disturb your business?" Di Mingju coldly looked at the jade slip in his hand and said without hesitation, "It's just a trivial matter." Far away in the Xiaoxian continent, the people of the polar domain gathered in the High Sky Hall, waiting for the Emperor's next instruction. T_T. How was the unusual movement of the Nether Realm and the demon army a trivial matter? Ben Jun will accompany you, no need. Mayan pushed him. You continue with your business. I'll save my people. If there's danger, it won't be too late for you to save the beauty. Di Mingju purses his lips in displeasure. He was the Extreme Domain's sovereign emperor. Was he someone who could come and go at the beck and call? At the very least, he should collect some interest. Just as he was thinking this, a gentle kiss fell on his cheek. The girl's gentle and sweet voice sounded in his ears. "Thank you for saving my life, but I have no way to repay you. I can only repay you with my body in the future." The Emperor's ears turned slightly red. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly before he suppressed it again. Finally, with a light snort, he disappeared on the spot. All of this happened in just a few moments. The crowd didn't even have time to react before the handsome man who suddenly appeared disappeared. Wen Jian staggered and stabilized his body, but spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was even paler than Han Song's, who had lost his summoned beast. He glares at Mu Yin. What did you just do?" Mu Yin revealed an innocent smile. "It's nothing. It's just that my fiancé couldn't bear to see a slut bully me, so he came out to fight for me." How is that nothing? This person casually broke into the forbidden area of the Sacred Heavens Alliance. Wen Jian, a cultivator at the peak of the mountain opening realm, didn't even have the strength to fight back under his casual palm. Chapter 3350. He came as he pleased, attacked as he pleased, and disappeared as he pleased. To this man, everyone present was like an ant that he couldn't even be bothered to look at. How is it nothing? At this time, when Jian really wants to slap Mayan to death. However, the chi and blood in his body surged, and his spiritual power collapsed. He was actually heavily injured by that man's casual palm strike. If not for the armor given to him by the Imperial Preceptor, he probably wouldn't even be able to stand up. When Jian forcefully took out a pill and swallowed it before gritting his teeth and saying, "Fine, I won't argue with you about this," Mu Yin unhurriedly says, "It's fine if Dr. Wen wants to haggle over it. At worst, I'll just call my fiancée over again. I'm a very timid person. When Dr. Wen scared me, I was so scared that I wanted to find someone to rely on and protect me. Everyone, I really don't see how you're a coward." When Jian was so angry that the top of his head seemed to be emitting smoke and his whole body was trembling because of his anger. But in the end, he still endured. "That underworld sky cauldron is the treasure of my Wen family. Please return it to me, Dr. Jun." Mu Yin hooks up her lips. "Just because you say it's yours? Why don't you call it and see if it will respond?" "You, Jun Mayan, don't go too far." Even Steward Wu and the others, who were watching from the side, felt that Mayan had gone too far this time. Most importantly, their alliance master was still in the cauldron and had yet to be treated. When Jian glanced at Steward Wu and sneered, "I was just curing Alliance Leader Xiang's fire poison and was interrupted at the crucial moment. Now that the fire poison has probably invaded Alliance Leader Xiang's heart meridian, if there is any delay, Alliance Leader Xiang's life will be hard to save. I'll leave it here. Think about what your Sacred Heaven Alliance plans to do." Upon hearing this, Steward Wu and the rest's expressions changed. His gaze towards Mayan is also extremely unkind. "Dr. Jun, please don't make trouble. Our Alliance leader's life is at stake. Please return the Dark Sky Cauldron to Dr. Wen immediately." Mayan sneered, revealing a mocking expression. "If you give the Dark Sky Cauldron to Wen Jian, that would be the real trouble." "What do you mean?" "Jun Mayan, don't be too arrogant. Even if your fiancé has extraordinary abilities, our Sacred Heaven Alliance is not to be trifled with. If our Alliance leader dies because of you, we'll make you pay with your life." Mu Yan's cold gaze swept across everyone in the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and she said unhurriedly, "A bunch of idiots. Can't you see that when Dian is not trying to save Alliance leader Xiang, but wants to use Alliance leader Xiang as a sacrifice to absorb the Golden Crow fire essence? Using the Underworld Sky Cauldron? What? Using the Alliance Master as a sacrifice? What is Golden Crow fire essence?" The people of the Sacred Heaven Alliance were confused. However, when Jian's face changed greatly as he looked at Mu Yan with a face full of fear. How did this little girl know about Golden Crow fire essence? How did she know his motive? Mu Yan looked at Wen Jian with a smile. "What? Curious how I know all this? That's because I can predict." When Jian's face twisted and he scolded loudly, "Bitch, don't make irresponsible accusations and slander me. Not only do I know your motive, I also know that this Underworld Sky Cauldron does not belong to you." Mu Yin turned a deaf ear to his cursing and continued to speak unhurriedly. "As everyone knows, as long as it's a high-level treasure, as long as it's refined by a cultivator, there will be a certain soul contract between the magic tool and its master." Chapter 33:51. As long as the contract seal is not erased, others will not be able to use it. The Sacred Heaven Alliance specializes in the refinement of artifacts. You must be very clear about this, right? Steward Wu hesitantly looked at Mu Yan, then looked at Wen Jian and nodded. "Indeed. Come, Dr. Wen, didn't you say that the Underworld Sky Cauldron is the heirloom of your family? Then try to make your contract light up now. As long as you can prove that the Nethersky Cauldron is indeed your contracted treasure, I'll return it to you immediately. How about it?" Everyone's gaze fell on Wen Jian. Then he saw his ashen face. For a moment, everyone reacted. What Jun Mayan said was actually true. The Netherworld Sky Cauldron was indeed not something that could be heard and spoken of. Then why did he lie? Wen Jian gritted his teeth and said, "Fine, so what if I admit that I borrowed this thing? Is that a reason for you to snatch it?" "That's weird." Mayan chuckles and interrupt him. "Alliance head Xiang has been poisoned by the Golden Crow fire poison. No one in the world should know, right? Even the people of Holy Heaven Alliance could not tell that what was on Alliance Chief Xiang's body was the essence of Golden Crow fire. Just now, Dr. Han had lost his summoned beast because of his carelessness. But how did you know Dr. Wen? Not only does he know, he even specially borrowed the Underworld Sky Cauldron that can counter the Golden Crow fire. Does Dr. Wen have the ability to predict the future? Following Mayan's narration, Wen Jian's complexion has turned from purple to pale. The gazes of Steward Wu and the others gradually sharpened. Just now, they were worried about the Alliance Master's safety, so they didn't think it through. Now that it was brought up by Mayan, he felt that this Wen Jian was full of flaws. Wen Jian had been exceptionally arrogant ever since he entered the Sacred Heaven Alliance. He even used the Snake Goo to hurt Hikaizu and the others. He even demanded to take away the Sacred Heaven Alliance's treasure, the Ninth Heaven Thunder Saber. He did not seem to be afraid that if he failed to cure Xiang Yinzhou, he would end up offending the Sacred Heaven Alliance and not be able to leave alive. Why? Because from the beginning, Wen Jian knew what illness Xiang Yinzhou had. Mu Yan's fingertips lightly press on the zither strings, casually plucking as she continues. Perhaps, from the very beginning, he never intended to let us walk out alive. Most likely, when the Netherworld Sky Cauldron absorbed the essence of the Golden Crow, Alliance leader Xiang alone would not be enough. In his eyes, all of us are sacrificial offerings. Wen Jian could not hold it in any longer and roared, "Shut up. Bitch, you're framing me. I'm the dignified #1 divine physician of the Lan family empire, the imperial court physician. How could I possibly do such a thing? How dare you accuse me without any evidence? I don't have any evidence." Mu Yin reveals a bright and beautiful smile. "However, I'm very good at extorting confessions through torture. Since the truth came out from your mouth, it should be able to be used as evidence, right?" Before Wen Jian and Steward Wu could react, the unhurried sound of a zither rang out in the cold basement. The sound of a zither was melodious, lingering, and intoxicating to the ears of others. But in Wen Jian's ears, it was like hypnosis, causing his mind to slowly fall into a trance. Everything in front of him became more and more blurry. Finally, there is a bang. Wen Jian's already exhausted body fell to the ground, falling into a deep sleep. Floating like a dream activates. Chapter 3352. It's really thanks to Di Ming Ju seriously injuring Wen Jian, otherwise, with Mayan's current cultivation. It's really not easy to drag a cultivator at the peak of the opening mountain realm into a dream. Mayan lightly purses her lips, hooking up into a beautiful arc. The speed at which her fingers pluck the strings is getting faster and faster. On the ground, Wen Jian's brows wrinkle tighter and tighter, the expression on his face becoming more and more frightened and desperate. His body unconsciously curls up, twitching and spasming. His thick hair starts to fall down in handfuls. His facial skin, which originally only had fine wrinkles, quickly shrinks and wrinkles. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Wen Jian seems to have aged more than 10 years. Only then did Mu Yin lightly pluck the strings with her fingertips, producing a resounding sound. The sleeping Wen Jian trembles, slowly opening his eyes. "Dream, it's a dream. Everything just now was just a dream, great." He cries and screams like he's crazy, his voice hoarse and crazy. However, when he raises his head, he meets the girl's peach blossom eyes that seem to be smiling, yet not smiling. His whole body is a guardian spirit, and his eyes reveal the fear of seeing a malicious spirit. "You, what did you do to me? Thousands of years of life pass by in a flash. I gave you a chance to experience a different life in a dream. It's the same as letting you live a few more lifetimes. Isn't that good? No, I don't want to experience it." Wen Jian screams hysterically, wanting to rush over and smash the zither in Mayan's hands. but he's just been seriously injured, and now he's suffering and floating like a dream. After running a few steps, he staggers and falls to the ground. The surrounding cold air penetrates his body, making his teeth chatter incessantly, and he can't even say a word. Mayan looks at his sorry figure, but her eyes are colder than the temperature in the ice room. Wen Jian, what you just experienced was the final outcome of those patients who were harmed by you. What? When you framed them and schemed to seize their family property and treasures, why didn't you ask them if they wanted to experience that kind of life? Wen Jian trembles and tries to get up from the ground, but because his hands and feet are weak, he falls heavily on the ice several times. His head is bleeding for a while. He could only lie there in a sorry state, then look at Mu Yin with fear and resentment. You? Who exactly are you? Do you know that I'm the imperial physician of the Lan family empire? If you kill me, the Lan family empire will definitely not let you off. Mu Yin narrowed her eyes slightly. In that case, your actions in the Holy Heaven Alliance this time are related to the Lan family empire? Steward Wu's pupil shrank as he glared at Wen Jian. Wen Jian said with a trembling voice, I don't understand what you're saying. The Sacred Heaven Alliance sent out hero invitations to invite doctors. That's why I came over. I didn't expect them to take revenge. Then let's change the question. Mu Yin interrupted him. Do you really want to use the Dark Sky Cauldron to save Alliance Master Xiang? Seeing that Wen Jian is about to open his mouth, Mu Yin sneers and presses her fingers on the strings. Wen Jian, you better think carefully before you answer. If you tell a lie, I'll let you stay in this nightmare for another 100 years. Wen Jian's face paled as he recalled the days and nights he had experienced in the nightmare. Looking at his wrinkled hands, his body began to tremble. Mu Yin presses her fingers on the strings and slowly plucks them. The pleasant music in the ears of others is like a talisman to hasten Wen Jian's death. He finally breaks down and yells, No, don't let me into the nightmare again. I'll tell you everything. Chapter 3353. The Dark Sky Cauldron is used to absorb the Golden Crow fire essence. Mu Yin, and after that, what will happen to Alliance Master Xiang? Wen Jian glanced at the ashen-faced Steward Wu, gritting his teeth. His soul will scatter. Scoundrel, how dare you? How vicious of you. We invited you to treat the Alliance Master, but you want to kill him. Steward Wu took a step forward and stomped on Wen Jian's back, gritting his teeth. Speak, who sent you to harm the Alliance Master? And that Golden Crow was a trap you guys set for the Alliance Master? Wen Jian screamed from the stomp. I can save Xiang Yinzhou. I really can save Xiang Yinzhou. In this world, only I can cure the Golden Crow fire poison. If you kill me, Xiang Yinzhou will definitely die. Do you think we will still believe you? Speak, who instigated you to go against the Sacred Heavens Alliance? Cold sweat dripped down Wen Jian's forehead. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. His face was full of pain, but his mouth was tightly shut, as if telling the truth would be more terrifying than death. Mu Yin narrowed her eyes, playing faster and faster. It doesn't matter if you don't speak. Then let the nightmares continue. When the time comes, I will always be able to see what I want to see. After, floating like a dream, rose to 3 stars, she could obtain the memories of the dreamer in the dream. Of course, not all memories could be obtained. The more the secret the owner did not want others to know, the more tightly the related memories would be sealed and protected. Only when the soul slowly shattered and could no longer control one's consciousness could the buried memories be dug out. This was like the soul-searching art. The more memories were taken, the more damage it would cause. In serious cases, one would become an idiot or even have their soul scattered. Wen Jian's face was ashen. Thinking of what Mu Yin had said, everything he had experienced was the miserable ending of the patients he had harmed. He couldn't help but believe that Mu Yin was telling the truth. I'll speak. I'll say anything. Wen Jian broke down and cried, crawling over to stop Mu Yin from playing. Please, don't let me enter the dream again. Mu Yin stops playing and looks at him. Wen Jian gritted his teeth and said with a trembling voice, It's the country. His second syllable hasn't even left his mouth when the cauldron bell above Mayan suddenly emits an ear-piercing hum. Following that, a dazzling red light shot out from the bell and landed on Wenjian's body. A ball of flame sprang up from Wenjian's back. In the blink of an eye, he was burned to ashes along with his bones, flesh, and soul. Muyin suddenly looked up, and the 7 absolute swords whistled out, chopping toward the bell in the sky. With a loud bang, the entire ice room shook and shattered ice flew everywhere. A charred corpse fell from the bell cauldron. Before anyone could react, the netherworld sky cauldron flew out of the passageway with a whoosh and disappeared before everyone's eyes. Everyone's face turned ashen. Steward Wu's eyes were filled with hatred. Who is it? Who is so vicious and arrogant? They were simply looking down on the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Mu Yin exhaled and looked at them with a complicated expression. Inwardly, she thought, as one of the 3 major alliances, you guys are indeed a bit too useless. Any random doctor could bully him, so it was no wonder that he was so easily schemed against. Chapter 3354. Meeting Mayan's gaze, Steward Wu instantly understood. For a moment, he was so ashamed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. He gritted his teeth and looked at Hung. Activate the Moonlight Illusionary Formation immediately. No matter what, you have to contact the old ancestor and have him return as soon as possible. Hung hesitated, but didn't the Alliance Master say that the old ancestor could finally put down his burden and go out to play, and that we should not disturb him no matter what? The Alliance Master is kind and filial, but are you stupid as well? Steward Wu shouted angrily. Others are already bullying us. If the old ancestor finds out, will he still be able to play? Go now. If there are any consequences, I will bear them all. Hung hurriedly accepted the order and left. Steward Wu, however, looked at Mayan and bowed deeply to her. Our Sacred Heaven Alliance will never forget Dr. Jun's life-saving grace. Mayan said lightly, he hasn't been saved yet. Isn't it too early to thank him? Steward Wu's eyes brightened, his voice trembling with excitement. Dr. Jun, are you saying that our Alliance Master can still be saved? If he is saved, is the promise that your Alliance Master will personally refine an artifact for me still valid? Yes. Of course, when has the Holy Heaven Alliance not fulfilled its promise? But the artifact that I want to refine is not just one, but a set. Wouldn't it be too tiring for Alliance Master Xiang? Steward Wu agreed on behalf of the Alliance Master without hesitation. No problem. Dr. Jun, as long as you can save the Alliance Master, you will be our Holy Heaven Alliance's benefactor. We will definitely fulfill your request, even if we have to go through hell. Not to mention that it is our duty to let the Alliance Master refine an artifact. A bright smile appeared on Mayan's face. Since Steward Wu is so understanding, then I, Jun Mayan, will guarantee Alliance Master Xiang's life. Hey, Jun Mayan, how do you plan to save this charred corpse? It was silent in the cold ice room, because Steward Wu, He Kaizu, and the others had already been chased out by Mayan. Her reason was very simple. It would be very risky to expel the Golden Crow fire essence from Xiang Yunzhou's body. Once the Golden Crow fire essence was awakened, the energy would explode. Everyone present would be swallowed by the flames and die without a burial. The Golden Crow fire essence would only calm down after swallowing enough souls. This was also the method that when Jiyan had initially planned to use them as sacrifices. It would be best if the Golden Crow fire essence did not awaken. Once it awakened, Wen Jiyan could hide within the underworld sky cauldron, but the other people present would definitely be burnt until not even their bones remained. Upon hearing Mu Yan's words, not only did Steward Wu not have the slightest doubt, he even shed tears of gratitude. He only feels that Dr. Mayan has a benevolent heart. In order to save their Union Master's life, she doesn't even care about her own safety. Of course, Qi Huang isn't worried about Mayan's safety. If an insignificant, lazy flame spirit were to injure Mayan in front of him, then he, Qi Huang, wouldn't be able to mingle anymore. However, He really couldn't think of a way to save Xiang Yinzhou. Mayan reveals a mysterious smile, her fingers slowly strumming the Tianmo Qin. This is the inspiration that the dark sky cauldron gave me. A bad premonition suddenly surged in Qi Huang's heart. An hour later, his premonition came true. Jun Mayan, you really are a madwoman, Qi Huang muttered, looking at the pale face outside the space, but the confident and disdainful smile on her face, her eyes shining with determination, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. A gentle smile that even he himself didn't realize appeared on his face. Chapter 3355. At this time, the ice that had covered the cold basement had completely melted. Half a person's height of water had accumulated on the ground. Floating in the air, Xiang Yinzhou, who had been silent and motionless like a corpse, was twitching uncontrollably. Groans of pain occasionally escaped from his chest. Above Xiang Yinzhou, a golden-red ball of fire was jumping like the sun, emitting a scorching heat that could melt everything around it. Hundreds of strands of silver energy were entwined around the fireball. The other end of the energy strands was connected to the Tianmo Qin. Mu Yan's gaze fell on the golden crow fire essence that was jumping in the air, as if it was desperately struggling. The corners of her mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. The fact that you could be subdued by the nether sky cauldron means that you know how to compromise. My Tianmo Qin is 1,000 times more powerful than that substandard demonic artifact, the nether sky cauldron. If you continue to make trouble, then at worst we'll both die together. Hearing Mu Yan's words, the golden crow fire in the air started to shake violently. The scorching flames didn't just shoot out, but as soon as they landed on the wall, there would be a sizzling sound. Even a hard and cold bluestone was instantly vaporized. The golden crow was really angry. Normally, what humans were most afraid of was that it would completely awaken. Even if they wanted to subdue it, they had to lower their stance and offer it all kinds of tributes. Those tributes were the most delicious and tender human souls. So it reluctantly went to the talisman that they provided and stayed for a while. In any case, it could still eat and sleep well inside. When it needed something, it could just sneeze. But what about this damned woman in front of it? Using the body of impurities to produce the purest spirit fire, luring it out of its already decaying body. The golden crow had thought that she would use her own spirit fire to worship it and curry its favor. But who knew that as soon as it came out of Xiang Yinzhou's body, it would be bound by countless strands of energy, unable to break free. This human didn't intend to beg it at all, but wanted it to obediently submit. Bastard! Bastard! When had it, the golden crow, suffered such humiliation? Lowly humans deserve to die. The golden crow's violent struggle caused the temperature of the basement to rise again. Not to mention the layer of ice, even the surrounding rocks and bricks began to melt rapidly. Only when the sparks hit Mu Yan will they be blocked by an invisible energy shield. The energy threads that were wrapped around the golden fireball broke one by one, and then wrapped around it again with the sound of the zither, repeating the cycle. Mu Yan's body has long been completely drenched in sweat, her lips a captivating red, but his face was deathly pale. On one hand, he had to restrain the golden crow, and, on the other, he had to use divine hand weave to block the golden crow. One could imagine how much spiritual power she had consumed. "Mother, let me help you." A clear voice of a child rang out. Xiao Baohad appeared beside Mu Yin at some point in time. The Bishia's sword in his hand emitted a buzzing sound as he slashed at the golden crow in the sky. The fat rabbit also appeared at the same time. It opened its mouth wide and swallowed all the sparks flying over into its stomach, the sparks that could even melt rocks and iron. But when it reached the fat rabbit's mouth, there was no reaction at all. Mu Yin turns her head to look at the little person standing beside her, revealing a shallow and gentle smile. "Okay, thank you, Xiao Bao, for your help. It's been a long time since we've fought side by side." Chapter 3356. Xiao Bao's ice-blue eyes brighten at once. His spirit is greatly shaken, and he happily swings his sword at the Golden Crow a second time. Bai Xie's attack is clearly effective against the Golden Crow. The golden fireball trembles violently in the air, making a shrill cry like a kettle boiling. Then a huge eye opens in the center of the fireball. It's filled with extreme anger and murderous intent. The golden color of the Golden Crow is gradually replaced by a blood-red color. Pa pa pa. The threads wrapping around the fireball are broken one by one. Poof! A flame sprang up from the Tian Mo Chin, and Mayan retreats several steps to luckily avoid it. Although the flame quickly disappears, the playing is interrupted. In the end, the Golden Crow still breaks free. At this time, the fat rabbit's belly is round from eating, and it's drowsy. The Bai Xie sword also can't withstand the scorching heat, and it makes a painful buzzing sound. Xiao Bao's originally white and tender little face has become as red as an apple, and his clothes have already been soaked with sweat. Mayan presses her hand on Xiao Bao's head and softly says, "Xiao Bao, be good and enter the Tian Mo Chin space, okay?" Xiao Bao worriedly raises his little head, looking at Mayan. Mayan smiles at him. "Don't worry, Niang Qin will not be in danger." Xiao Bao nods and disappears with Bai Xie and the fat rabbit who has already fallen asleep. In the space, Qi Huang coldly snorts. "You only know how to be brave. This sage has already told you, with your current cultivation, it's still impossible to subdue the Golden Crow. Let this sage go out. This kind of low-level flame essence. This sage can pinch it until it can't move." Mayan shakes her head. "This is the floating island, too close to the Xiaoxian continent. What if your breath leaks out and you're discovered?" Qi Huang's face darkens, and he unwillingly clenches his fists, his eyes indescribably gloomy. Mayan smiles and says, "Relax, Qi Xiao Huang. You're not my only external aid." In the air, the Golden Crow excitedly jumps up and down in the air. "That big ugly, I was filled with disdain and resentment. Lowly human, now do you know the consequences of provoking me, the Golden Crow?" Mu Yin wiped the sweat off her forehead like rain. She looked up at Jin Wu and revealed a pitying smile. "Wasn't it good to be obedient before? If we settle this peacefully, you will suffer less, and I won't have to mobilize so many people." Jin Wu looked at Mu Yin as if looking at an idiot. Is this woman crazy? Even at a time like this, he still felt that he could control the Golden Crow fire essence. "Human, my calamity fire of burning soul will turn you into ashes, and you will never be able to reincarnate." The Golden Crow was about to move. The woman in front of him touched a ring on her ring finger. Puff! A ball of flame sprays towards Mayan like lightning. Just as he was about to melt her skin and bones, a chilling aura suddenly filled the entire basement. Then, the Golden Crow saw the fireball it had spat out being casually extinguished by a slender and beautiful hand. As soon as Di Ming Ju appears, he feels the scorching temperature around him and frowns fiercely. The divine power within his body revolves, and the scorching heat in the air that could melt a person's flesh and bones seems to have been suddenly sucked away by something. Di Ming Ju pulls the sweaty young girl into his arms. His mouth complains, but his eyes are full of distress. "Nonsense. Is this what you said you could handle?" Mayan secretly sticks out her tongue. "I couldn't handle it, so I called my dear fiancé. Did I disturb you again?" Chapter 33:57. Di Ming Ju calmly cut off the jade slip connecting to the universe mirror, faintly saying, "It's already over." Then he turned to look at the Golden Crow that was frozen in fear in the air, frowning in disdain. "You want this fire essence?" Even in the Xiaoxian continent, the Golden Crow's fire essence was a treasure that everyone fought for. But rumor had it that this fire essence was especially mischievous, had a bad temper, and was harder to raise than the mythological beasts of his polar domain. Di Ming Ju said, "If you want to refine this Golden Crow fire, I'll help you dissolve the spiritual consciousness inside. This way, it'll be easier for you to use it." The Golden Crow's entire body trembled. The enormous eye was filled with terror. The appearance that had turned blood red quickly recovered to gold, then silver. The fireball trembled up and down. It wanted to escape, wanted to release the fire essence that could burn everything in the world. But its instincts as an elf told it that facing this man, any tricks were useless. This man was too strong, stronger than everyone it had ever met on the Shioshin continent and the floating islands combined. That was an existence infinitely close to a god. Why? Why would such a terrifying man appear here? Was it really the end for the Grand Golden Crow today? It had worked so hard to cultivate a spiritual consciousness, it didn't want to dissipate. Woo woo woo. The huge eye trembled, and then trembled again. Big drops of tears rolled down from it. The Golden Crow knew that begging this man was useless, so it turned its pleading gaze towards Mu Yin. Woo woo woo, I know I was wrong. I'm willing to be obedient, spare me. Mu Yin looked at the pitiful Golden Crow in the air and smiled. I told you to be obedient earlier, but you didn't listen. Now do you know how gentle and kind this lady is to you? Deming Ju reached out to grab the air, and the trembling silver-white Golden Crow was caught in his hand. Divine power enveloped the fireball. The Golden Crow's enormous eye rolled up, full of despair. It's over, it's over. It's going to die. Mu Yin finally pressed down on Deming Ju's hand, smiling. Forget it. Let's leave it with its dog life. A fire essence with spiritual consciousness is hard to deal with, but it has room for growth. My master said that if I want to refine pills that are above the saint grade, I need to refine a ball of spiritual fire that truly belongs to me. In my opinion, this is it. As he spoke, he stretched out 2 fingers and pinched the Golden Crow. After turning silver white, the Golden Crow's body no longer felt scorching hot. Instead, it felt warm like a hand warmer. Tell me, will you still be a demon in the future? The Golden Crow in her hand shook its head frantically. Are you willing to be obedient? Nodding madly. Are you willing to sign a master-servant contract with me? Willing. As long as my divine sense isn't erased, as long as I don't have to stay with this terrifying man, I'm willing to do anything. Mu Yin shows a gentle and kind smile and touches the warm silver ball. You see, wouldn't it have been better if you had been so obedient earlier? Why did you have to force me to use my trump card and bring trouble upon myself? Jinwoo, sob. Who knew that your trump card was so illegal? The faint golden light turned into runes in the air and wrapped around Mu Yin and the Golden Crow. The master-servant contract was established. Mu Yin looked at the unconscious Xiang Yunzhou in the water and used her foot to kick the silently crying fire essence. Give him a bit of Golden Crow fire. Idiot, I'm not asking you to burn him to death. I'm asking you to absorb it. The depressed Golden Crow heard Mu Yan's order and directly separated a small ball of golden flame to smash towards Xiang Yunzhou. Chapter 3358. Mine was caught off guard and couldn't stop it in time. She could only smash the Tian Mo Chin in her hand. The Tian Mo Chin and the Golden Crow fire collided. Boom! After a loud noise, the earth shook and the entire basement completely collapsed. Alliance Master! Dr. June, how are you guys? Are you still alive? What's going on? The underground ice room was built with the hardest iron bluestone, and it was even covered with fortification and defense arrays. How could it collapse? Alliance Master, boo-hoo! Did the Alliance Master die inside? In the Holy Heaven Alliance, everyone stood at the collapsed entrance, their hearts burning with anxiety. At this moment, their vision blurred, and several figures appeared in front of them. The first thing everyone saw was a tall and handsome man who looked like a god. No, handsomeness was only a momentary sensation. The people present couldn't even see his appearance clearly, because with just a glance, they felt awe and submission from the bottom of their hearts. Their eyelids unconsciously drooped, not daring to look straight at him. Their bodies trembled slightly, as if instinctively wanting to kneel and worship. Who was this man? Why would he appear in their Holy Heaven Alliance? Only Steward Wu and the others were wild with joy when they saw the newcomer. Because other than the handsome man, there was also a devastatingly beautiful girl, as well as their unconscious alliance master, who was being carried by the man. Dr. June, it's great that you're all right. Steward Wu almost cried out. He thought that his alliance master was dead for sure, and even the innocent Mayan's life was involved. He didn't expect Mayan's fiancée to be so resourceful. Going in and out of their Holy Heaven Alliance's forbidden area was like entering an uninhabited land. If it was in the past, Steward Wu would definitely be vigilant. But now, he only wanted to thank the heavens. Dr. June, what about the Golden Crow fire poison and our Alliance Master's injuries? Mayan's expression was still not very good, and she motioned for Di Mingju to return Xiang Yinzhou to the Holy Heaven Alliance. Di Mingju casually tossed it away like trash. Steward Wu and the others scrambled over and managed to catch their alliance leader after much difficulty. Dr. June, could it be that our alliance master can't be saved? Steward Wu's eyes were red, his face already showing despair. Don't worry, his injuries have been healed. It was just that the consumption was too great, so he couldn't remain unconscious. When he wakes up, feed him some pills to replenish his spiritual power and vitality, and he will be able to recover completely. Steward Wu listened in a daze. For a moment, he felt as if he had suddenly flown from hell to heaven. Dr. June, our Sacred Heaven Alliance is indebted to you. Di Mingju doesn't wait for them to finish speaking and directly grabs them and disappears. Only the girl's clear and melodious voice came from afar. 3 days later, I will come to collect the consultation fee. In the Tian Mo Chin space. The Fat Rabbit, Little Phoenix by Xie, and Little Chick were surrounding a small silver ball and beating it up. Ah! How dare you bully this beautiful sister? I'll beat you up. I'll beat you to death. Goo goo gee gee. Is this a new game? Huang Wang likes to play together. The small silver ball tried to dodge, but it was unable to do so. In the end, he couldn't help but cry. It was the Golden Crow. How could he be so miserable? As if a great demon king and a she-devil weren't enough, there were actually a bunch of little devils among them. All of them were bullying it. Chapter 33:59. Woo woo woo. That's enough. Stop. An icy, childish voice sounded. The little ones did not hesitate to stop bullying the little silver ball. The Golden Crow swayed and rolled half a circle, looking forward with its enormous single eye. He saw a fairy-like little boy with his arms crossed in front of his chest, slowly walking toward him. In front of the book pagoda, not far away, there was a young man dressed in red with peerless talent. A pair of narrow phoenix eyes looked at it, as though it was a pile of trash. The Golden Crow shuddered and started to tremble in fear. So scary, so scary. This little child had the presence of a demon king. Even his appearance was the same. And this red-clothed youth, it was clearly not near, but the Golden Crow felt as though it would be devoured at any moment. Xiaobao looked down at it and said coldly, "You are too stupid. You can't even understand mother's orders." The little chick flapped its broken wing excitedly and chuckled. Stupid, stupid, too stupid. Not as smart as Huang Huang at all. Golden Crow Wu. Xiaobao. Brother Chi Huang said that the intelligence of elves can be tempered. So starting from today, you'll be trained by us. Strive to become an obedient and smart spirit fire like mother. The Golden Crow blinked its large eyes. Caw! Train what? The pitiful Golden Crow did not know that its miserable life had just begun. Floating Island, Lawn Family Imperial Palace. A long-haired man dressed in a spotless white robe stood by the bed and looked at the cauldron glowing yellow in his palm. He narrowed his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Someone actually subdued the Golden Crow fire first. Haha, interesting. Who had the ability to even subdue the Golden Crow fire essence? Was it from the Xiaoxian continent? Greetings, State Preceptor. The man in front of the window turned around and looked down at the man kneeling on the ground. He smiled warmly. How was the matter at Sky Light Ruins? The black-robed man's expression froze, fear in his eyes. Estate Preceptor, just a bit more. The boundary of Floating Light Island will be destroyed by the fiendish energy. Please give me some more time, Imperial Preceptor. Jing Yin, I trust you. That's why I gave you the mission of the Tianguang ruins. You won't disappoint me, right? Cold sweat dripped down from the black-robed man's forehead. His palms, which were pressed against the ground, were wet and cold. It took him a long time to control his voice from trembling. Don't worry, State Preceptor. I will definitely complete the task. With that, he kowtowed heavily and turned to leave. Her lowered eyelids hid the worry and hesitation in her eyes. A girl named Yi Liangchun suddenly appeared in the Tianguang ruins. This person had emerged as a new force in the last few months, plundering most of the treasures in the world of bloodshed. But it just so happened that none of these treasures had been handed over to the Three Alliances and the Lan Clan Empire. The black-robed man had sent many people to all the major cities to investigate, but he could not find anyone who looked like Yap Liangchun. Most importantly, this person had already topped the Carnage chart 5 times in a row. However, the warning from the Imperial Preceptor was still ringing in his ears. The black-robed man clenched his sweaty hands. Never mind. It would be better not to report this matter to the Imperial Preceptor. After all, it was only 5 times. It was still far from 12 times. Also at most 6 times. In the heavenly light ruins of the massacre chart, no one had been able to top more than 6 times in a row. When he caught this Yap Liangchun, he would ask for forgiveness from the Imperial Preceptor. Chapter 3360. Sky Island, Tianguang Ruins. Unknowingly, the previously dilapidated and shabby base of the Thunder Gang had greatly changed its appearance. Although it wasn't richly ornamented and magnificent, it was decorated warmly and comfortably. The layout and atmosphere of the whole palace were warm and lively. It formed a sharp contrast with the gloomy and cold world of slaughter. In the main hall, Ma Quishan was discussing gang affairs with several elders of the Old Man No. 1 under the World Gang. Suddenly, there was a flash of light on the sofa in front of them. A young girl in green clothes with a delicate face appeared in front of everyone. The people in this room were all fierce and murderous. Only Ma Quishan was slightly better. It made the girl on the sofa look especially young and immature, slender and fragile. It was as if anyone here could crush someone to death with just a finger. However, when the fierce men in the room saw the girl, their eyes immediately lit up. Like fanatical believers, they rushed over and kowtowed to the girl excitedly. Great Goddess Yi, you are finally here. There are only 10 days left until the 6th slaughter list is updated. We were afraid that you would come too late and let someone else take advantage of you. Mu Yin smiled. Why do you seem to care more than me about whether I can continue to be the top of the slaughter list? Of course, Ma Quishan said happily, Miss, you don't know how many people in Tianguang ruins worship you. Suda said excitedly, these days there are countless people who have applied to join the Old Man No. 1 under the World Gang. The reputation of our gang has now steadily surpassed that of the Drunk House and the Moon of West River. When he first followed Boss Liu to rob Mu Yin, he never thought that he would follow such a new master who defied the natural order. Su Air. Now, next to the slaughter list, there are already many people who have opened bets, betting on whether Great Goddess Yi can break Fu Izue's record of 6 consecutive times. Mu Yin smiled. What are the odds? Su San answered, the odds that you can tie Fu Izue's record are 100 to 1, and the odds that you can break Fu Izue's record are 1 to 1. Mu Yin originally just asked casually, but when she heard the odds, she also showed a surprised expression. Even Ma Quishan was hearing this for the first time. Why are the odds so low to break Fu Izue's record? Could it be that the strength that young Miss had displayed during this period of time was not enough for them to recognize reality? Who in the Tianguang ruins can contend with Miss? Suda glared at his 2 dim-witted brothers. Only then did he cough lightly and say, Great God Yi, you might not know, but ever since the slaughter world of Tianguang ruins was formed, the slaughter ranking has long been updated who knows how many thousands of times. During this period of time, there were people like Fu Izue who managed to rank first 6 times in a row, but no one managed to rank first 7 times in a row. Seems like, he paused and said hesitantly, seems like there's an invisible restriction in Heavenlight Ruins. Once you rank first on the Carnage roll for 6 consecutive times, this invisible restriction will be activated. If one killed a dire beast, the number and strength of the dire beasts would multiply. If one killed a human, one's opponent would receive all sorts of protection from Tianguang Ruins, but one will be plagued by bad luck, and it would be difficult for one to move an inch in Tianguang Ruins. This kind of restriction will only disappear after the first place on the slaughter list changes hands. Muyin looks pensive. No wonder. The time ratio between Tianguang Ruins and reality was 10:1. In other words, over 20 years had passed in the real world, but over 200 years had passed in the Tianguang Ruins. Chapter 3361. The slaughter list was rotated every 3 months. So far, the list had been updated at least 1,000 times. How could there not be one person who topped the list 12 times in a row? Suda said with a flattering smile. But great God, ye has proven your strength. Just like Fu Izue, even if you didn't win the title 12 times in a row, how many people are willing to follow you? The treasures in Tianguang Ruins are all yours. Mayan waved her hand and said nothing more. She turned and flew towards the wild beast forest. 8 days later, Yulianshan's name once again topped the slaughter list. 2 days later, the first place did not change. Tianguang Ruins announced again that the 39th round of the slaughter list was Yulianshan. Whoosh! The camp of the old man number 1 in the World Gang was boiling. Their great god, Yu was indeed the strongest. In the wild beast forest, Mayan looked at the wild beast in front of her that had suddenly become several times stronger. Her expression became very serious. It seemed that Suda and the others were right. There was an invisible prohibition in Tianguang Ruins that did not allow anyone to win the title more than 6 times in a row. But why was that? Just as the thought flashed through her mind, the wild beast roared and rushed up. Mayan quickly took out the Tian Mo Qin to resist. However, the wild beast did not only increase in strength, but also in number. In the originally quiet jungle, the roars of the wild beasts were getting closer and closer. Their escape routes were almost all blocked. Mayan's heart shuddered, and she quickly retreated out of the jungle. With great difficulty, she got rid of the wild beasts. As soon as she got out of the jungle, Mayan was blocked by a group of masked men in black. "Who are you people?" The people on the opposite side did not speak, but took out their weapons without a word. Each weapon was dipped in poison, emitting a creepy blue-purple light. These people were obviously prepared. They had been waiting here for a long time with the purpose of intercepting and killing Mayan, who was now rejected by Tianguang Ruins. If it was an ordinary person, there would be no way out in this environment. But there was not much panic on Mayan's face, because these people did not know that the floating light jade key on her body allowed her to enter and exit Tianguang Ruins at will. There was no need to rush to a specific entrance. She could leave and stay if she wanted. In this Tianguang Ruins, no one could stop her. However, Muyin did not plan to escape just like that. She also wanted to see what secrets were hidden in this massacre skylight ruins. Just who had turned little light into this. The 7 Absolutes sword was unsheathed to meet the enemy. However, as time passed, Muyin discovered that she had underestimated the restrictions of Tianguang Ruins. He could clearly see the sword move. But his hands and feet seemed to be restrained by invisible hands. Only by exhausting all the strength in his body could he resist. Before long, Muyin's body was already covered with cuts and bruises. The one in the Tianguang Ruins wasn't his real body. However, injuries to the soul were 100 times more painful than injuries to the physical body. She can't hold on any longer, lay this soul-killing formation, and give her a fatal blow. If we kill her, we will be able to report to the Lord. After the soul-killing array was set up, a few black-clothed men slowly approached, their eyes flickering with a faint cold light. However, in the next moment, The person they had surrounded disappeared without a trace. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with disbelief. Disappeared? How did it disappear? Did he leave the Tingguang ruins? Chapter 3362. How is this possible? This isn't the entrance to Tingguang ruins, and there's no transmission array here. How could she leave? This Yiliang Chun is too dangerous. This matter must be reported to Darren at once. Outside of Tingguang ruins, the pain disappears, and her body returns to normal. But Mayan's anger is still not smooth. The feeling of having strength but not being able to use it and being suppressed by others is too aggrieving. And if this goes on, it's almost impossible to achieve the 12th consecutive top position on the Carnage list. As she's thinking, her nose is lightly scratched. An extremely handsome face appears in front of her. But the man is clearly in a bad mood, coldly looking at her with an unfriendly expression. Bin Jun is in front of you, and you could turn a blind eye? Mayan immediately smiles and hugs him, snuggling into his arms and rubbing against him. Is everything settled? Diming Ju pinches her chin, moves closer to look at her expression, and frowns. Did you encounter a problem that you can't solve? Mayan stares blankly. She's the best at hiding her emotions, but Diming Ju can always catch the slightest change. However, Dijun is never a sensitive and observant person. He can detect it so quickly only because as long as the two are together, this man only has her in his eyes and heart. Thinking of this, Mayan feels as if her whole heart is soaked in warm and sweet honey water. She chuckles. It's a matter in Tingguang ruins. Don't worry, I can solve it. By the way, how is the investigation of the Ning family going? Hearing that it's a matter in Tingguang ruins, Diming Ju's face turns a little unsightly. Only Tingguang ruins, which belongs to the Nether domain, is a domain that he can't touch and protect. When he hears the last sentence, his already unsightly face becomes even colder. The people of Yu tribe sent back news that there's no Ning Yinshin in the Ning family, and no one has seen Junshi Yuan. The most important thing is that the Ning family's main family is really strange. The whole family doesn't live in a house or palace, but in an incomparably sturdy, semicircular fortress that can't be probed with divine sense. Even with Di Mingju's frightening cultivation, his divine sense can't penetrate the fortress. The fortress is closed all year round, and Hanyi has sent his subordinates to monitor it for several months, but no one comes in or out. There are many cultivators with the surname Ning living outside the fort, forming a massive family clan. But these people knew almost nothing about the matters of the Ning family's direct descendants. Di Mingju coldly says, Bin Jun will directly blast open that fortress, don't. Muyin quickly stopped him. What if my biological parents are in the fortress? Don't tell me you want to become enemies with them? Jun Shangdarin thinks about it, and his face darkens. If it were someone else, so be it. The Polar Domain's sovereign emperor would not be afraid of them. But if the people inside were Mu Yan's biological parents, that is, his father-in-law and mother-in-law, then he would really offend them. Mu Yan smiled and reached out to stroke the man's cheek, softly saying, Let me investigate this matter. I have a feeling that I will definitely get some information about my biological parents here. I've waited for so long. What's the point of waiting another year and a half? Diming Ju coldly snorts and suddenly reaches out to press down on the girl's nape. He heavily kisses her. Promise me, no matter if we can break off the engagement or not, as long as you ascend to the Xioshin continent, we will get married. Mu Yan's complexion is as red as her lips, but her pair of peach blossom eyes are astonishingly bright. All right, you still want to stop me from marrying the man I love with a mere marriage contract. Chapter 3363. The corner of Di Ming Ju's mouth lifts up, and he suppresses it again. What's more, there are so many fairies and fairies in the Xioshin continent who are coveting you. What Isla Master Yu Yanran? What Tian Yimin's young master? If I don't tell the world that this man belongs to me, what if someone else takes him away? The smile on the corner of her mouth finally can't be suppressed, and it slowly spreads. Mingju embraces her in his arms. Even if he tries to suppress it, one can still hear the happiness in his voice. Well, you have to tell the world that Benjun is yours. You're also Benjun's. 3 days later, Mu Yin finally sees Xiang Yunzhou, who has returned to normal. His long beard flutters, and his figure is slender. Although there are wrinkles on his face and his hair is a little gray, it doesn't prevent him from being a refined and handsome old man. Seeing Mu Yin, Xiang Yunzhou deeply bows to her, his eyes full of gratitude. I can't thank you enough. Dr. Jun, what kind of treasure are you going to refine? It's very straightforward, without any intention of beating around the bush. However, Mu Yin likes this kind of vigorous and resolute style very much. She turns her wrist, and a crystal-clear long sword appears in her hand. Almost at the moment when the 7 Absolute sword appears, Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widen, showing an expression of fascination and amazement. Seeing that Mu Yin doesn't object, he carefully takes the 7 Absolute's sword and caresses it in the air like a rare treasure. I have never seen such a godly weapon. All the sharp sword energy is converged inside, not even a little bit leaked out. And this material, I have never seen it before. How many precious materials are needed to refine such a unique flying sword? After looking at it for a while, Xiang Yunzhou reluctantly returns the 7 Absolutes sword to Mu Yin. Suddenly thinking of Mu Yin's intention, he frowns slightly. Does Dr. Jun want me to improve this flying sword for you? There's no need for that. This flying sword is almost perfect, and I have no place to improve it. Mu Yin shakes her head. I want to ask Chief Xiang to refine a few more sets of such flying swords for me. A few sets? What do you mean? Instead of 7, how many sets can you refine is that? After all, my materials are limited. Xiang Yunzhou staggered and almost fell. Just this 7 Absolutes sword alone already made him feel the terrifying energy contained in it, and it was not inferior to the 9th Heaven Thunderblade at all. He had never seen such a peerless divine weapon before. Forget about refining a few sets. He couldn't even refine one. Mu Yin directly threw a piece of paper and a chinquan bag to Xiang Yunzhou. This is the refining method of the 7 Absolute swords and the materials needed. I have prepared a total of 3 sets. Xiang Yunzhou took the paper and looked at it, and his eyes suddenly widened. This, such a secret refining method. Dr. Jun, you gave it to me, just like that. Mu Yin saw that he was even trembling as he spoke, and couldn't help but ask strangely, I don't know how to refine artifacts. What's the use of keeping this secret method? Could Alliance Chief Xiang succeed? I don't ask for all 3 sets to be completed. As long as I can complete 1 set, we'll be even. Xiang Yunzhou took a deep breath and bowed slightly. I will not let you down. The grace of saving his life, exposing Wen Jiyin's conspiracy, the secret refining method. He owes this Dr. Jun too much. Xiang Yunzhou has made up his mind. Even if he has to do his best, he must refine a peerless divine weapon. Chapter 3364. However, 5 days later, when Mayan was invited to the Sacred Heaven Alliance's headquarters again, she saw Xiang Yunzhou full of guilt and frustration. Her heart skipped a beat. Alliance Master Xiang, did the refining not go well? Xiang Yunzhou's face was pale, his lips were chapped, and his eyes were dark. His body was weak and tottering, as if he would fall at any time. Hearing Mayan's inquiry, Xiang Yunzhou's face was full of shame. Dr. Jun, I am ashamed that I can't even do this for you. Steward Wu, who was standing next to him, couldn't help but say, Dr. Jun, for the past 5 days, our Alliance head has been refining weapons day and night, ignoring the fact that her body has just recovered. But for some reason, at the last step, she inexplicably failed. Xiang Yunzhou took out the chinquan bag and handed it to Mayan. I'm sorry. There's only 1 left of the materials that you went through so much trouble to find. I am really ashamed of your kindness. Only 1 of the 3 materials was left. It would be a lie to say that he didn't feel pain. There were many priceless treasures inside, and it would be extremely difficult to find more. But Xiang Yunzhou had obviously tried his best. Mayan sighed softly and reached out to take the Chinkoan bag. Even Xiang Yunzhou couldn't do it. Was there really no way for her to add more natal swords? She heard Qi Huang's exasperated roar. Trash, trash, trash. I gave you the refining method of the lowest level 7 absolute swords, and he can't even refine it. What the hell is he doing? Oh, I am so angry. Mine's action of putting away the Chinkoan bag paused. She suddenly gritted her teeth and stuffed it back into Xiang Yunzhou's hands. Alliance Master Xiang, I will heal you now so that you can recover your energy. Can you try to refine it again? This time, I want to see it with my own eyes. Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widened slightly. Then he smiled bitterly. Miss June, it's not that I am unwilling, but my level is not worthy of refining such a divine weapon. Even if I refine it again, it would be a waste of these precious materials. How about this? Wait for my Sacred Heaven Alliance's old ancestor to come back. Let him. No need. Mu Yin firmly stuffed the Chinkoan bag into Xiang Yunzhou's arms. I believe in Union Master Xiang's sincerity and ability. Even if I fail the last time, it will be my own decision. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Xiang Yunzhou stares blankly at her. Dr. Jun, do you trust me that much? In fact, in my Xiang family, my talent in refining weapons has always been unpresentable. However, he loved refining so much and hated fighting and scheming against each other. The reason he had been schemed against this time was because he had been in a rush to absorb the Golden Crow fire to prove that he had the ability to repair the Tong Tian halberd. If Mu Yin had not appeared, he could not imagine what would have happened to him and the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Therefore, after waking up, Xiang Yunzhou's emotions were immersed in self-loathing and guilt. Mu Yin smiled slightly. Alliance leader Xiang, I've seen many artificers and also many people in high positions of power. However, I've never seen anyone like you. You're clearly the alliance leader of a huge force like the Sacred Heaven Alliance, but you're still pure and innocent, and you're not greedy for power. You're only obsessed with artifact forging. I think if my life bond sword could be forged by a master like Alliance Master Xiang, it would be my honor. With a leader like this, the Sacred Heaven Alliance might not be at its peak, but the cultivators and citizens would live happy lives. Chapter 3365. Steward Wu looked at Mayan with a smile, then looked at Xiang Yunzhou. That gaze wasn't like the reverence other subordinates had when they looked at their master, but it was filled with intimacy and tolerance. Xiang Yunzhou's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. After a long time, he received the Cosmos sack and said through gritted teeth, "All right, I'll try again." Mu Yin had always felt that Xiang Yunzhou's character was soft and gentle. He didn't seem like a union leader, but more like a rich mortal son. However, after witnessing his artifact forging with their own eyes, they suddenly realized that he was an expert at the peak of the sea-splitting realm. Even on the floating island, there were very few cultivators who had reached the peak of the sea-splitting realm, and Xiang Yunzhou was still a spirit cultivator. His summoned beast was a flaming moon fox. According to Steward Wu, the flaming moon fox's eyes were originally brown. However, after Mayan helped Xiang Yunzhou absorb a small amount of the Golden Crow's fire, it turned golden red. The flames he spat out also turned from the original orange red to a golden red. As the spiritual fire in the furnace burned more and more fiercely, Xiang Yunzhou completely restrained the anxiety and uneasiness in his eyes and focused all his attention on the materials. The temperature in the room rose steadily. Thick spirit energy, accompanied by the smell of burning materials, filled the entire refining room. Steward Wu, Dr. Jun, when you're halfway through refining a high-grade magic tool, a spiritual vortex will appear in the surroundings. Your cultivation level is too low, so it's dangerous for you to stay here. Why don't you wait outside? No need. Mu Yin only replied with these two words. Then she attentively watched Xiang Yunzhou's every move. Strange. Why did she feel like there were similar memories and scenes in her mind? However, it was clear that she had never learned to forge weapons. And in the inheritance of the Shun musicians, there are no skills related to refining tools. But very quickly, Mu Yin throws this thought to the back of her mind, because the spirit vortex began to appear in the crafting room. Steward Wu summoned his transcendent artifact and tried his best to protect Mu Yin. His forehead was already covered in sweat, but Mayan doesn't seem to notice this at all. Her attention was completely attracted by the 7 swords that were gradually forming in the furnace. Deep within her sea of consciousness, the 7 Absolutes sword was beating as if it had a heart of its own. Then, gradually, the 7 swords in the furnace also jumped up. It was like a magical artifact that was originally a dead object. In that instant, it was as if it had been bestowed with a soul. Xiang Yinzhou, who was focused on crafting, was stunned when he saw this scene. Then his eyes lit up with joy. That's right. So that's how it is. No wonder I couldn't refine it no matter what I did. A divine weapon doesn't have a soul. How can it be considered a divine weapon? I'm really too silly. We'll definitely succeed this time. It will definitely succeed. The spirit energy inside Xiang Yunzhou's body surged crazily, pouring into the 7 swords without hesitation. At the same time, the fiery moon fox was spitting out golden red flames and hammering the 7 swords in the air with a hammer. Success, he was about to succeed. Even Mu Yin holds her breath, waiting for the final moment to come. However, at the next moment, Mayan suddenly feels a sharp pain in her knowledge sea. Immediately afterward, the entire refining room shook violently. The 7 swords that had already taken shape in the furnace seemed to have suffered some kind of impact, and cracks began to appear on their bodies. How could this be? Why did it fail? Chapter 3366. Xiang Yinzhou couldn't believe it. I already have a soul. I will succeed. His face was red from the furnace fire, and his lips were pale and cracked due to the exhaustion of spiritual power. Blood even flowed from the corner of his mouth. Steward Wu shouted worriedly, "Leader, don't continue." However, Xiang Yinzhou turned a deaf ear, and the spiritual power in his body poured into the furnace like it was free. His summoned beast, Flaming Moon Fox, also spat out flames and waved its hammer. Mu Yin suddenly heard Qi Huang's exclamation, "Oh no, I forgot. To set up 7 kills in one, you need to be at least a golden immortal. Without being a golden immortal, you can't refine 7 kills." Qi Xiao Huang. Mu Yin couldn't help but want to drag this brat out and beat him up. She even forgot that there were people around and directly roared, "Why didn't you say earlier that you want to be a golden immortal?" Steward Wu had been tossed around by the surrounding vortex and didn't hear Mu Yan's words. But Xiang Yinzhou heard it. He paused and murmured, "Golden immortal cultivation. Yes, this is a natal sword, not an ordinary magic weapon. Such a huge amount of energy without the corresponding cultivation. How can it be stored in the sea of consciousness?" As soon as he realized this, Xiang Yinzhou felt his knees go soft, and he sat on the ground. Without the support of spiritual power, more and more cracks appeared on the 7 swords in the furnace, and faster and faster. Xiang Yinzhou showed Mu Yin a smile that was uglier than crying. "I am so stupid. As a refiner, I didn't even think of this." Mu Yin looked at the old man in front of her, whose hair and beard were mostly burned, and her heart seemed to be blocked by something unspeakably uncomfortable. Xiang Yinzhou was still comforting her. "Miss June, don't be sad. Although it didn't work this time, we have found a way. When you break through to Golden Immortal, come find me. I will definitely." "Alliance Master Xiang, please continue refining." Mu Yin suddenly spoke, interrupting him. Xiang Yinzhou was stunned. He heard the girl sitting cross-legged in front of him, and a black zither appeared in front of her. The girl raised her head, her beautiful peach blossom eyes staring at him, and her voice was resolute and disdainful. "I now advance." Advance? What level? Steward Wu resisted the urge to dig his ears. He suspected that he had heard wrongly. Was it the advancement that he understood? because the mortal cultivation realm was unable to withstand the enormous power of the 7 peerless weapons. He had to break through to the mysterious life realm in the short time he took to forge the weapon. Are you kidding me? Steward Wu felt that this little girl was crazy. Breaking through a large realm was described by her as if she was chopping melons and vegetables. Was this person too arrogant, or was there something wrong with his brain? Xiang Yunzhou was stunned for a while before saying, "Miss June is telling the truth?" Mu Yin took out a bottle of pills and poured it in her mouth, then stuck a few talismans on her body. She then pressed her fingers on the zither and played lightly. Whether it's real or not, won't Chief Xiang feel indignant to just give up like this? Why don't we take a gamble? Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widened. Then, the doubt and shock in his eyes were gradually replaced by determination. A little girl who was not even 20 years old had the courage to gamble. Could it be that he, Xiang Yunzhou, could not afford to gamble? All right, you who continue to use the pill fire. Use the cloud hammer to forge. Don't stop. After saying that, Xiang Yunzhou also swallowed a pill, and without hesitation, he inserted his spiritual energy into the furnace. Chapter 3367. Steward Wu stared at this scene with his mouth agape. He was speechless for a long time. Crazy. Crazy. It was one thing for Dr. June to be crazy, but the Alliance leader was also crazy like this girl. There were at most 2 hours until the 7 Shin weapons were forged. Advancing from mortal cultivation to profound life realm in 2 hours? What a joke. This was not how one boasted. Jingyan Darren, are we going to visit the Sacred Sky Alliance now? Hearing the subordinate's question, the black-robed man frowned and said in a low voice, "Send someone to find out how Xiang Yunzhou's illness was cured. Find out what happened in the Sacred Sky Alliance in this period of time." The subordinates obeyed and dispersed. A few hours later, everyone gathered in the inn. The Sacred Sky Alliance is very tight-lipped about their Alliance leader's treatment process. We only got some information after several rounds of asking. It was a female doctor with the surname June. She cured Alliance leader Xiang. Yi Jingyan said, "Surname June? Do you know where she is now?" The subordinate shook his head and said, "But others say that Alliance leader Xiang's illness was not cured." The Sacred Sky Alliance spread this news to calm the people. They heard He Kaizu and Beitang Feilu admit that they could not save Xiang Yunzhou. Yi Jingyan frowned in thought. When Jian's soul lamp had been extinguished, He Kaizu and Beitang Feilu could not save him. Was there really someone in this world who could cure Xiang Yunzhou who had been corroded by the Golden Crow fire? What female doctor with the surname June? He had never heard of such a person on Floating Island. Yi Jingyan was inclined to believe that Xiang Yunzhou's illness had not been cured. The reason he made this announcement was to wait for the old ancestor of the Xiang family to return and take charge. Otherwise, the Sacred Sky Alliance would be in complete chaos. Wen Jian's death was most likely due to the backlash of the Golden Crow fire. Thinking of this, Yi Jingyan gave a dark smile. In that case, the Golden Crow fire must still be in the Sacred Sky Alliance. We will take the Golden Crow fire essence and the Ninth Sky lightning blade away tonight. This if the people of the Sacred Sky Alliance find out, Yi Jingyan snorted. So what if they find out? The people of the Sacred Heaven Alliance had never been willing to listen to the Imperial Preceptor's orders. They even swaggered around just because the Heavenly Halberd needed them to repair it. With the Golden Crow fire, the Holy Sky Alliance would be useless in the future. If they dare to resist, I might as well get rid of them on behalf of the Imperial Preceptor. Wen Yan's subordinates also revealed arrogant smiles. 1 country and 3 alliances is the structure of the floating island that hasn't changed for hundreds of years. Today, it's time for a change. Those who resist the Imperial Tutor should all die. They were talking and laughing. Suddenly, a loud rumble came from the direction of the Sacred Heaven Alliance headquarters. The entire Spirit Wonder Mountain trembled. What happened? Sir, look. A subordinate pointed at the sky above Mount Spirit Wonder and shouted, Those are tribulation clouds. The originally clear blue sky was now covered in a thick layer of clouds. The lightning split the thick dark clouds like a spider web, emitting a colorful light. In the bustling market at the foot of Mount Spirit Wonder, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Is someone undergoing tribulation? No, it doesn't look like it, right? I've never seen anyone with a 7-colored tribulation cloud. Yes, the last time our sect master broke through from the mountain opening realm to the earth creation realm, there was no such commotion. Only a heaven-shattering realm cultivator would have such power, right? That you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.